So hello guys, good morning everyone. My name is Vishal Gupta. I'll be a trainer for this green belt session. Uh, from my introduction perspective, I have got over 18 years of industry experience. I have worked in different industries, right from customer service, technical support, healthcare, sales and marketing. I have been into IT and ITES enabled services. Predominantly, I have been into quality and process excellence since last 8 years. Off recently, I have moved into operations, but I'm still doing the quality work out there as well in terms of process improvements. I'm in terms of my credentials, I have done my yellow belt long time ago. I don't remember the date right now. I have done my green belt and I am certified Lean Six Sigma black belt. In terms of projects, I have completed 4 black belt projects, many green belts. In terms of training, I have trained exactly 198 students on terms of green belt sessions. You adding 3 will cross 200, so I'm happy for that. Yellow belts, yeah, definitely I have taken over 50, and green belts I have trained approximately 42 people so far. So that's about me. Would you guys like to start introducing yourself? And I don't want, it's okay. You can definitely give more insights about yourself, but I'm more keen on knowing what is your expectation of joining this green belt session. So if you can introduce yourself by your name, the company you're working, the designation, what exactly you do on a day-to-day basis in your office, that will help me to align my examples based on your work. So it will be easier for you to understand. And if you can set some expectation in terms of what exactly has driven you to join a green belt course, that would be great. So I keep the forum open. Anyone can start.
Hello. Thanks, Vishal. Am I audible enough?
Yeah, definitely you are.
Okay. So thank you so much. So my name is Enoch Otieno, um, electrical engineer by profession, and
Mhm.
currently the QC manager. So I would like to know more about the what entails when we're talking about the Six Sigma and the controls that ones need to know and how to improve the process or reduce costs to some extent. So that's what
Okay, that's good. But-
gave me the motivation to. And
Okay. All right. No worries. So definitely. Thank you very much for joining the session. We'll definitely learn how to uh, control and what are the different methodologies or techniques used in Six Sigma. We'll definitely have a good overview about them as well. So thank you very much. Welcome aboard. Dean, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good morning. So,
Morning.
by name, as you can see, the name is Dean Arden, and by title,
Okay.
I'm a senior manager for quality assurance and training. I operate and work for the Indusha Global Solution, which is more so a
Mm-hmm,
business process outsourcing company.
mm-hmm,
Yellow belt certified, so I'm exposed to Six Sigma. I think my
mm-hmm,
ultimate reason for being a part of this session would have been to further those or improve on my knowledge of Six Sigma. I would have underwent several projects yellow belt, but as you know,
mm-hmm.
that's based. I'm trying to improve. Eventually, the aim is to get to a black belt, and I think, like you said, you're black belt certified, and you would have guided persons along the way. So I think I'm in the right place where I can learn a lot more when it comes on to the green belt piece.
Sure. Definitely, I'll be more than happy and willing to guide you in terms of the certifications as well. What exactly is the exact expectation? But definitely, sure. So, yeah, definitely. Welcome, Dean. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Terry, would you like to go next?
Yes, my name is Terry. I work for Sun Culture as an engineering project manager. So
Mm-hmm,
I mostly handle our operations and our operations between China and Kenya. So I guess Six Sigma would be good because of um, process improvement. Like that is the major motivation.
all right. Great. Welcome, Terry. No worries. Definitely. We'll be learning a lot. Uh, So I'll set some expectations on a daily basis. Until and unless, so I'll be sharing my email address with you guys. I'll be sharing my Google Drive link where you'll find all the study material for all the 5 phases that we'll be going through across 7 days. In case if anyone is unable to attend the session, I would really appreciate if they can drop an email beforehand. I understand the situations globally are not conducive because of the COVID situation and stuff like that. So I would really appreciate you dropping an email. Second, if you are stuck anywhere, I want you to ask a question. Get it clarified. I have no challenges. I'd be more than happy to spend extra time with you guys, but I want to make sure that you understand the concepts very well. One of the biggest challenges on online learning today has been we don't have physical presence. Though everything is online, we do have options of learning. One of the things that I have seen in my online classes that because we are working professionals, we get 1 or 2 days in a week. Now we are going to book us 7 Saturdays, 4 hours every Saturday to learn Six Sigma. I want you to make sure that you find some time, go through what you have learned every Saturday. Otherwise, you will be forgetting everything. You will be. It's vast. It's not simple. It's vast, and you have to practice a couple of concepts that are equally important. Reason being, till the time you don't practice them in terms of tools or methodologies, you will not be able to understand them. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Good from my end.
That's perfect.
Great. And yeah, so as per humans goes, the individual attention span is not more than 20 minutes, but I'll still try to push you every day, every session. After every hour, we'll take a 15 minutes break, if that's okay with you all guys.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great. All right, guys, let's begin. So I'll just quickly minimize everything. You can see my screen?
We can. I think my only question is I would have seen where the session is recorded. Will it be by any chance shared with us or no?
Yes, it will be. So
Thank you.
the coordinators will share the link with you after end of every session, so you can download those sessions. And anyways, whatever you're going to see in terms of slides, videos, I'll be sharing the Google Drive link, and you will have access to it anytime you want.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep, great. All right, guys, let's begin. So welcome to Define Phase. So can, apart from Dean, has anyone ever tried to go through what Six Sigma is all about? Like Terry or Otieno, can tell me what Six Sigma is all about? I just want to have a wild guess. I just want to see whether have you guys read about it, heard about it. I know we have heard about it, but have you gone a step ahead trying to understand the phases or learn more about them? So Terry, or I see it seems that you work both in the same organization, Sun Culture, if I'm not mistaken. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So did you guys ever go through or try to learn more about Six Sigma when you decided to join this course? So what is your general understanding about Six Sigma? All right. No worries. It's okay. I don't want to ask too many questions right now. Let's begin. Okay. Let's start with slide 1. So in define phase, so Six Sigma. So when we say Lean Six Sigma, why we say it Lean and then Six Sigma is uh, Lean is another concept more or less used is more of visual management and stuff. So if the problem is not critical or is not complex, we try to use lean fundamentals to fix the problems. But if the problem or if the area of concern is huge, it requires number crunching, it requires analysis, it requires a lot of analysis, then Six Sigma comes into picture. That's the reason the word Lean Six Sigma is, or it is derived from there. So Six Sigma has, so we'll be learning Lean, but at a later part completely, where we'll see what are the Lean fundamentals, what are the things involved, because it is simple to learn, difficult to practice. But in terms of Six Sigma tools, it is difficult to learn some of them. For that, you would need a lot of concentration and effort from your end. So we'll start with the define phase. So define phase predominantly, it talks more about overview of Six Sigma. What is Six Sigma all about? What are the Six Sigma metrics that you will be learning or need to know across all phases? So it covers all those things. It talks about project team, it talks about project charter, problem statement, and so on and so forth. So we will not have too many, we will won't be doing any kind of analysis or analytical work in here. We'll not be learning tools as such, but we'll be learning, it will be more of a theoretical session today. So, and guys, I'll appreciate if you guys can ask questions as and when you have a doubt, so we can make sure that you are able to understand everything. Okay, so let's begin. So in the define phase, we will be covering the following topics. We'll be learning an overview of Six Sigma. We'll see the fundamentals of Six Sigma projects, where we'll try to learn the different matrices that we'll be using throughout all the phases. And we'll be learning the lean fundamentals as well from to a certain extent. So welcome to the overview of Six Sigma. So on completion of the course, we will be able to define Six Sigma, analyze the Six Sigma levels and their corresponding defect rates, understand the Six Sigma approach and the relationship between input and output, very important, explain the DMAC methodology, and list the Six Sigma belts and explain their roles and responsibilities. So what is Six Sigma? Sigma in statistics refers to standard deviation, which is used to measure variation. So variation is the enemy of any process. To maintain quality, we need to understand, manage, and minimize process variation. So it's a very simple fundamental. It's not rocket science. It's all about minimizing variation in any process. So when we say variation, what do we understand? Can anyone give an example of a variation? What do we mean by variation? What do we mean by variation, guys? Can anyone give me an example? What do we mean by variation? Guys, if you don't answer, then I'll be individually picking you guys and you have to answer the questions. So Otieno, would you like to give an example? Guys, are you able to hear me?
We sure can. I think
Yep.
variation would have been the different type of outputs that you get, if I understand correct.
Okay. So Dean, can you give an example?
Let me see. What would have been an ideal example of a variation? In my industry would have been more so when it comes on to the quality assurance output. So, and we do what we call evaluations for agents. And
Okay.
then there'd be a benchmark score that an agent is required to be at. So as you
Yep.
know, an agent might be above, an agent might be right aligned, and an agent might be below. So I think the variation would have been how far away that agent falls from the appropriate benchmark. So for example, if your output is estimated to be at 90%, the variation could be somebody below 90, somebody above 90, or somebody right aligned at 90%.
Right. So Dean, very well explained. Let me give you one common example. So we all drink tea, I'm sure, tea or coffee. every time that we drink tea or coffee, does it taste the same way until unless we are buying it from a shop every day? Do you any time find a variation when you prepare a coffee? Do you see a difference in taste?
Definitely. Again, it's
Okay.
dependent also on the brand of coffee that you'd be utilizing.
Yep. Okay. Uh, Absolutely right. But why exactly the variation is in there? What is the reason the variation is in there?
Would it be
So brand of
dependent?
coffee. Yep.
Correct. Correct. I think the brand of coffee and the preparation method.
Right. So Dean, if I have to compare with the example of business process outsourcing, where we are evaluating agents on a parameter of a audit form where we have multiple parameters and it is weighted average that is being taken. So similar, it's nothing but the same way that we have in coffee. So when the coffee is being prepared at home, what brand of coffee you're using, what is the preparation method? So are you boiling water first and then putting coffee in it, or is it like a simultaneous process, or you're adding sugar at the same time? There are a lot of things involved into it. So definitely, the variation comes from the different uh, aspects of it. As you said, it's all sub process or sub tasks from where the variation can come. So variation can come from anywhere. So that is where we are going to learn what the variation is all about, where it comes from, and how to reduce it. So whole idea is about reducing the variation. That's it. Clear, guys? So Dean is in. I suppose OTNO has just okay. It's changing the network. Okay, Terry, you're still there? Seems there is some disturbance with voice. Terry, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
great. Okay, so Terry,
Okay.
did you understand what variation is all about?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on. Six Sigma is a business management strategy which aspires to improve the quality of any process by minimizing variation. So Six Sigma methodology is all about minimizing variation and finding it, obviously. So you can't minimize something till the time you identify that yes, this is a variation, and secondly, how to identify it, whether definitely it's a variation or not, because there are a lot of aspects which you might feel that they are actual variations, but they might not be, and where exactly these variations are coming from. So we will be learning about identification, uh, correcting it, or identification, identifying the true form of the variation, and reducing it. That's what we'll be doing in all the 5 sessions. The goal of the Six Sigma is to make the process average operate at approximately 6 standard deviations away from customers' upper and lower specification limits. So we'll talk about it in detail, what exactly it means. It ensures that the process has enough room to float before approaching the specification limits. So Dean just gave an example. He said the quality standards for the company that he's working is set at 90%. So every individual agent or associate who's being measured on the quality form is supposed to get a quality of 90% every time an audit is performed on him or her. Why it is not 100% or why 90%? Can anyone give an example? Or Dean, would you like to let us know why 90% and why not 100% every time?
I think equally looking at standard deviation, then that would have a correlation when it comes on to the tenure of the agents. If we're
Hmm.
going to be setting a realistic target, then automatically what we'd be looking out for would have been defects. Defects in the BPO sector typically comes in the form of new hires. So if
Hmm.
they're not pretty much up to standard, their knowledge is not where the tenured individuals would have been, then automatically we can't realistically expect them to be 100% because there's always going to be room for improvement. So
Hmm.
leaving that room for improvement allows us to say, you know what, this is where the gap resides, and automatically there will always be gaps when it comes on to knowledge or soft skills or somewhere along the line. So it allows
Hmm.
us that room to be consistent looking to fix whilst being held accountable to a specified goal that is realistically able to be accomplished.
Absolutely right. So, guys, we will see what is standard deviation. We will see. So, when we say standard deviation, when we say 6 standard deviations, that is where the Six Sigma term is derived from. So, so first we'll see what is variation, then we'll see what is deviation, and we'll see how exactly it is derived, because this is something we need to know. Though there are statistical tools that we will be using. So guys, just to let you know, I'll be using Minitab to perform uh, different usage of tools through it. Though we can do it in Excel, but it is more easy to use in Minitab as compared to Excel. There are other softwares available as well in the market, but I'll be using Minitab. You can download Minitab for free uh, from their website. It is 30 days free trial that you can go for. I have a bit older version. If you want, you can download. It's again a cracked version, I'm sorry to say, but if you want to use it for free forever, I have a cracked version. I'll be sharing you the link on Google, and you can download it from there for your practice purposes. Okay, so let's move on. So it ensures that the process has enough room to float before approaching the specification limits. So these are the specification limits of the customer, upper and lower. So Six Sigma yields only 3.4 defects for every million opportunities. 99.9997 products are defect free. So if you see the only defect, so it is not saying that we will make the process 100% defect free. It's not possible, because there are internal and external factors. You can control the internal factors to a higher extent as compared to external factors. Like there can be variations happening because of climate, because of nature, that is not in your control. So that's the reason, if you're able to achieve Six Sigma, it itself is a very big accomplishment. So guys, any idea which industry in the world operates at the highest level of Sigma level? So when we say Six Sigma, you have 99.997% defect free products or services, or only 3.4 defects per million opportunity. Are you aware, or have you ever read which industry in the world operates at the highest Sigma levels? So higher the Sigma level, so it's not that it stops at 6, it can even go to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It can go to that extent. Which industry? But the standard is Six Sigma. Standard is 6. That is what we'll be learning. Any clue, any idea which industry operates at the most highest Sigma levels?
I think I'd guess the medical industry.
Sorry, Terry, you said which industry?
The medical field.
Medical field. Okay. So when you say medical field, are you talking about pharmaceutical manufacturing?
Maybe medical devices, or even
Okay.
perhaps pharmaceutical.
Okay. Okay. Good try. Anyone else would like to try?
I think it would have been the mobile phone services if my reading was correct, and equally the car or the motor vehicle industry.
Okay. Good try, Reen. What do you know?
Manufacturing industry. Um,
Manufacturing.
yeah,
So when we say
man,
manufacturing, are we talking about a specific manufacturing industry like machineries, cars? Like manufacturing industry is an umbrella term that can be, even pharmaceutical comes under it. So when you say manufacturing, which specific industry are you talking about?
I think it would have gone back to what I would have made mention. So I think more so pharmaceutical companies, airline manufacturing and so forth, automobile manufacturing, and
Hmm.
potentially mobile phone creation. I think those
Hmm.
are the highest signal levels.
Okay. Okay, guys, good try. Thank you very much for your answers. But all of us, Dean was partially right. But let me tell you the industry. The airline industry has the highest Sigma levels. Now I'll tell you why. Airline industry operate at 16 sigma levels. Why? You cannot afford to have three. If it runs at 3.4 defects per million opportunities, you can't have 3.4 accidents, airline accidents every million flights. It's not possible. It will be a disaster. Loss of life, loss of name, fame, money, everything. So again, that 16 sigma is divided into two parts. Airline industry, the actual flight, the takeoff and landing, it runs at 12 sigma. And the remaining 4 sigma is more to do with your baggage handling. So whenever you load, whenever you check in your baggages inside the plane, the defects of, or the chances of you losing the bag or not getting it on time or having some defect out of carrying are high. So that's how the airline industry works at 16 sigma level. Pharmaceuticals, I'll tell you why it doesn't operate at that level, because pharmaceuticals are based on chemical components. Uh, if a particular cough syrup that I'm consuming has a positive effect on me, doesn't mean that it will have a positive effect on you as well, because human body reacts differently to different kind of chemicals. And doctor definitely can't diagnose everything just by looking at it or using a stethoscope or checking some reports. Manufacturing industry in terms of mobile phones, I suppose it has gone down drastically since last 5 to 7 years after we have a lot of Chinese mobile players coming into place. For inexpensive prices, we are definitely getting better features, but in terms of quality or longevity of a phone. So today, if I decide to buy a decent phone and I spend ₹1,000,000 on it, not million rupee, 100,000 rupee on it, I would expect at least it to work the way it has been advertised or picturized, and the features should be the way it is. But if I decide to buy a phone worth 10,000 rupees, I will not get the same kind of features, and it could even happen that the phone might have problems with the next. It will develop problems in the next couple of months. And again, there are so many brands and so many players coming into place. Definitely, it has pushed the market, but quality is nowhere there in place. So that's the reason manufacturing sector if you say automobile manufacturing, they don't operate to that high levels. Reason being, you will see news coming from big players like Volkswagen or BMW or any other manufacturing industries recalling many vehicles in thousands just because the brake was having some issues or airbags were having issues. So those vehicles were already sold in the market, and now they are recalling them to fix them. So at the end of the day, it's an inconvenience to the customer. So if I'm paying for something, I expect it to be working the same way I have been told about, but it's not. So yeah. So are we clear now? Are we clear why I say pharmaceutical industry or automobile industry or mobile manufacturing industry is not operating at that high signal standard levels?
Yeah.
Yes.
Clear? Anyone has any doubts or any counter questions to what I said?
And from my end.
All right, guys, great. Let's move on. Okay, sigma level. So measures the number of standard deviation between the process average and the nearest customer specification. So for example, in the image shown below, a customer upper and lower specification limit, that is also known as USL and LSL, are narrower than the width of the process. So this is the entire width of the process, but the LSL and USL are very close to the mean, that is the average of the process. The LSL and USL and LSL below stay about 1 standard deviation away from the process average. So this is 1, this is 1, plus 1, minus 1, okay, away from the process average. Therefore, the process operates at 1 sigma. Approximately 70% of the products are defective. Approximately 70% of products are defective. Lower sigma levels mean higher defect rates, and higher sigma levels mean lower defect rates. 6 sigma is a measure, 6 is the goal. Always remember this. 6 sigma is a measure, 6 is the goal. You might get a question in your exam. You might, and you need to. There will be a table that will be shown soon. You might even get that table as well. If not the table, there will be few points that you would need to be answered. That. So table below, yeah, this is the table I was talking about. You will definitely get this answer question. This table shows each sigma level corresponding defect rate and DPMO. DPMO stands for defect per million opportunities. The higher the sigma level, the lower the defect rate and DPMO. So at it talks about 2, 3, 3.5, 4, 5, and 6 sigma level, and what will be the accuracy percentage and what will be the defect per million opportunities. So guys, the reason they say million and not 100 and not 1000 in terms of opportunities, when I say opportunities, is nothing but instances. Okay, so if I say so Dean, he's into quality, he's like managing the quality for his company. We have an audit form or audit sheet on which we go ahead and audit the different associates in the company who are on transactional audits, like they might be on calls, they might be using chat or different medium to support customers. Now, for example, if that audit form has 10 parameters on which agent's performance or associate's performance is being monitored or audited by a quality auditor, I would say every time. So can you tell me if an auditor has audited 20 associates in the company, how many opportunities are present in those 20 audits?
I think it would have been dependent on the agent that is evaluated. So if we are
So for example,
auditing,
yeah, so Dean, sorry. So for example, the audit form is, so if you see, so I have also worked in BPOs long time ago. I have worked in technical support, semi-technical customer service, but when it comes to healthcare, the audit form is stringent. There is no not applicable option in there. So I'll just clarify the question that I asked. You have 10 opportunities and you have to mark either a yes or a no. You cannot mark a not applicable out there. So can you tell me how many opportunities would be there if an auditor audits 20 associates on the form that has 10 parameters?
I think more so in the healthcare line of business, if we're completing roughly about 20 audits, roughly about, I'd say, 5, about there, about 10% of the evaluation, anywhere between 2 to 5, you can expect even one missed opportunity, roughly about there.
No, I'm saying how many opportunities do you have? I'm
Yeah,
not
that
talking
would
about
have
defects. Yeah. How many opportunities
been
would you
more so.
get? Yeah.
So that about anywhere between 2 to 5 opportunities is what I'd ideally say we'd be seeing.
Okay. So let me. Okay. OTNO Terry, do you have an answer to this question, or what is your thought around it?
I want to say 400 opportunities, but I'm not very sure that I understand the question.
Okay. OTNO.
Yeah, I was thinking something in the line of 200 opportunities. Something like
200.
there are 20. Yeah, I think something like 200.
200. Okay. So guys, the question was simple. I'll again reiterate the question. So there is an auditor. So the reason I'm asking these questions is to clarify these things now, because when this term DPMO constantly hammers you across the entire 5 phases, you should be very clear with it. So I have an auditor who has done 20 audits, and each audit form has 10 opportunities or 10 parameters. So that would be 200 opportunities. Yes, so you're right, it will be 200 opportunities. So there will be instances where you have to identify what is a defect and defective. We also look into that as well. because that is also equally important. And what to consider as an opportunity is equally important. So there would be instances in real life. So see, guys, understand, Six Sigma is not a governance model. So when I say governance model, it doesn't tell you that you have to do the things the way they are. It is not like when I say governance model, if you see ISO certifications, they are governance model. In order for you to achieve an ISO certification for your organization, everything that has been mentioned there has to be followed to the last word. But when it comes to Six Sigma or ITIL, those are frameworks. So you can use the way based on the flexibility that you have in your organization. So that's the beauty about Six Sigma or ITIL, for example. So here, definitely the answer to the question is absolutely right. Yes, it is 200 opportunities. There would be instances where there are some opportunities will not be applicable. So for example, the audit form that has been, so I'm talking from the audit form perspective right now. As and when we go ahead, we will dig more into it. We'll try to learn more about it. So it could happen that the audit form is not a 100% mandatory audit form. There would be certain, so for example, the kind of calls the agent handles, it might be a different call altogether that the audit form cannot capture. Okay, it cannot capture. So are you going to mark an engineer down just because he has done something or not done something and it is not in the purview of the audit form? How would you capture that? So it could happen that that particular instance cannot be captured. Though he has been audited, he has possibly, it could be a privacy check to begin with, like, asking name, asking some secret passcode, or some kind of privacy check, which is a mandatory thing that is being done. But suddenly there is some information that the client is asking for, which the agent or which the associate doesn't have an answer to. And again, the same thing is not being captured by the audit firm. What would you do in that case? Will you consider that as an opportunity for the rest of the remaining 7 parameters if those parameters uh, cannot be used to gauge the agent's performance? No. So in that case, it could happen that out of those 10 parameters, only 3 have been an opportunity for me to gauge the performance of the associate. The rest 7 will not be an opportunity in that case. So wherever you have audit forms, so Six Sigma works really well where you have proper numbers, the definitions are very clear, and you are able to put it in form of a number. You will be able to get success quickly. But if you have to start from scratch, it will take very long time. So in a standard process that I have seen, a Six Sigma process, a project, a green belt can last from 2 months to 8 months or 9 months. Again, there are a lot of ifs and buts, a lot of things into it. A black belt project can even go the similar way. The only difference between a green belt or black belt project would be the financial savings that you're making. So anything about $100,000, if you're saving per annum, can be considered as a black belt project. Clear, guys? Teen,
Clear,
Otino,
thank
Terry,
you.
any questions so far?
None of
No.
my end.
Have we understood what is defect per million opportunity, or have we understood the concept of an opportunity? Okay,
Yes.
great. Let's move on. So what is Six Sigma? Six Sigma levels. So a process operating at 3 Sigma has a defect rate of approximately 7%. In IT, in telecommunication, sorry, in IT, when we say virtually no modern computer would function if it's operating at that level. In telecommunication, 4,050 invoices would be sent out incorrectly each month by a modest sized telecommunication company. 5,400 earnest calls details would be recorded each day from a regional telecommunication company at 3 Sigma level. You can imagine the kind of loss. Healthcare, 10.8 million healthcare claims would be mishandled every year. Banking, 18,900 US saving bonds would be lost every month. 54K checks would be lost each night by a single large bank. 270 million erroneous credit card transaction would be recorded each year in the United States. So that's the impact of a very low Six Sigma rating. We'll quickly browse through the history. It's good to know information. It might come in your exam. So Lean Six Sigma history started somewhere around about 1900. If you see, there are a lot of companies involved. So first one, uh, sorry. Okay. So uh, something wrong with this slide, I suppose. Okay. So let me just go up, guys. Suppose something is wrong with this slide. Guys, you can see the screen? Yeah.
We can.
Yep. Okay. So Lean Six Sigma history and timeline. So number one, you have Motorola and Texas Instruments. So Bill Smith, also known as the father of Six Sigma, adopted the Six Sigma at Motorola in late 1980s. His theory of latent defects, variation in manufacturing processes, is the main driver for defects, and eliminating variation will help eliminate defects. Motorola awarded the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award in 1988, a result of extensive implementation of Six Sigma. So Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award is like the Oscars of quality, and it still goes on. If you are keen to know more about it, you can visit their website. You can see the criterias, and you can also see what kind of innovations or what kind of analysis were done to make sure that the implementation of Six Sigma is successful and more fruitful. Second, you have General Electric and diode signals. So Six Sigma was implemented at GE by Jack Welch in the 1990s. Boeing, Ford, Toyota. So the concept and methodology of Lean were applied by Ford and Boeing in early 1900s. Lean focuses on eliminating waste and increasing efficiency, works hand in hand with Six Sigma. Toyota adopted the Lean methodology in 1960s. So Bombardier, Nokia, Sony, Crane, etc. The track record of these companies after implementing Six Sigma speaks for itself. Definitely, those are big companies. Nokia, no more the big ones, but definitely they made a lot of money when they actually implemented it to the last go. So now, guys, any questions so far? From I'm sure it's more subjective and understood. It can be understand easily. Any questions from Six Sigma history perspective?
None from my end.
Okay. Now, the most important aspect that you should never forget in your entire life till the time you're into quality or anything that you're doing. So Six Sigma approach is coined y is a function of x, y equal to f in bracket x. The Six Sigma approach uses a transfer function, which is a mathematical expression of relationship between inputs and output of a system. So y is a function of x, whereas y measures of output of a process. So y is your output, always remember that. Fx is a function of x, and x's are nothing but the factors or input that affect y. So y equal to fx is read as y is a function of x. The objective of Six Sigma is to identify the critical x's that have the most influence on the output y and adjust them so that the y improves. So if you think from a larger perspective, not just from your process perspective, this can be thought about anything and everything. Uh, so we do travel by train, we do travel by buses, we travel by air. Why we prefer a business class suite, or we prefer a premium airline like a Qatar or Emirates as compared to any other airline that you know, that can take me from point A to point B. Why? Can you give an example, or can you give me an example, guys? Y is a function of X. Can you give me an example? Anything that comes to your mind. Nothing is wrong in here. Any example of Y is a function of X. Anything that comes to your mind.
Customer treatment, how you are treated in the lane, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So what is the Y and what is the X?
X is how you are treated, and Y I think is why you prefer the plane compared to the rival.
Okay. Good one. So how would you treat it? So it can be more than one X as well, right? What you know. So can you put some more light? Can you throw some more X's onto it? Like, so when I say how you are treated, can you further break it down?
Okay, I may just like go to something as simple as how comfortable the seats are. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. So let me add more. How comfortable the seats
Yes.
are, how
As
well you were
my
treated. Yep.
that will affect my decision.
Yep. So how was the food? How
Yeah.
was the behavior of the ground staff? How was the behavior of the uh, cabin staff? Or how you were treated at the entrance? Whether the security was nice? A lot of aspects. So these are all the X's that actually, and definitely the inside plane atmosphere is definitely different. But obviously the ground crew will equally contribute to your experience in the plane. Um, yeah, good one. Uh, Dean, would you like to give it a try? Would you like to give another example?
Let me see. I think another example potentially could be the purchasing of a car. I think more
Hmm.
so the technology that is placed into the brand or the type of the car is more
Hmm.
so what
Hmm.
captures the attention of individual purchase are the costs associated with same. So what would have been the Y would have been more so the cost, and what would have been the X would have been the technology and the comfort level of that vehicle that
Hmm.
attracts the buyer.
Okay. So can you break it down? So for your Y is so what is your Y in here? What is the output? What you're going to derive out of buying a luxury car, and what are the X's that will actually define your Y? So can you, in this example of purchasing a car, can you give me an example by breaking it into Y and the X's?
Sure, I think more so buying the luxury car, it would be more so your why would have been comfort, and I think equally somewhat luxury car typically gets to status, so persons would seem to be of a certain status. The X or the input would have been more so the technology that persons would have been more so the technology that is placed into same,
Hmm.
and equally, let me see, equally, less the technology, like why is the material that is used to create that vehicle to bring about the comfort that you're seeking. Not sure if this is an ideal example.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. So, okay, so the Y is comfort, if I'm not mistaken, that is what you're looking at. And
Correct,
definitely, when it comes to high-end vehicles, comfort is, so it could be comfort, it could be power, it could be style. That is the Y that you're looking out for.
correct,
Then, when I say comfort, a comfort can be the suspension system of the car. It can be the seats. It can be the air conditioning. It can be the material that is being used to actually manufacture these seats. It can be the leg room. It can be the headroom. Yeah. It whether your seats have the reclining capabilities. Uh, Whether you have so all those things can contribute to your. Guys, just a minute. Just a minute. Sorry guys, just give me a minute.
Hello. Hello. Hi, sir. Hello. Yes, I can hear you, sir. Hello. Okay, it is not muted actually, but I don't know what is the issue. Hello.
Put yourself on mute. There is a lot of background noise. Okay.
Right now.
Sorry guys. Sorry for the inconvenience. Let me just minimize this. Okay. All right. So Dean, clear with what is the y of function of x?
Understood. Thank you.
Great. Terry, would you like to give an example?
I don't have any on at the top of my head. I've been trying to get one, so I think
Uh,
I'll.
uh,
would-
it can be anything, Terry. See, the whole idea is the reason I'm pushing right now is to make sure this basics are very well understood by each one of us, so that when we are actually going into the difficult part of it, life will be a bit easier for us, everyone. So the example can be anything.
Okay.
It's not only a work-related stuff. So if I have to, you have to give me an example. Y is a function of x, where y is the output, and
Mm-hmm.
x are the input that is going to derive it. So can you give an example?
Okay, perhaps the output being the level of education or where you go to school or campus
Mm-hmm.
would depend on what, or like on the prices of courses, the courses they have available.
Mm-hmm.
It would depend on how popular a certain school is and what kind of other activities they offer within the school.
Okay. So let
Yes.
me add a bit more to it. So if you correct me if I'm wrong, are you trying to say the quality of education versus is the y the output?
Yes.
And the access can be, which school you're going, which kind of
Yeah.
study material you're using, but again, end of the day, it
Mm-hmm.
also matters on your individual as well. So your individual willingness to learn is also equally important, so that can be another x. So correct me if I'm wrong, this is example you're trying to give, right?
Yes, you voiced it much better than I did.
Okay. Okay, great, no worries. Thank you very much. All right, guys, good. So now I'm clear that you have understood y is a function of x. So let's move on to the next slide. So let's look at the actual Six Sigma Pro. So we'll actually look a proper example now. So let us look at a simple example of a pizza delivery company that desires to meet customer expectation of on-time delivery. Okay, so y is a function of x. So y in this example is a percent of on-time deliveries, and x the factors that effectively the on-time delivery. So probable excess can be what can impact my Y, that's the percent of on-time deliveries, traffic, number of deliveries per driver dispatch, accuracy of direction provided to the driver, reliability of the delivery vehicles. Okay, so a Six Sigma approach helps you to narrow down and identify the vital excess that significantly influences the Y or on-time pizza deliveries. So Y equal to Fx is a very powerful concept and requires the ability to measure the output and quantify the output of a process. Only those significant excess are used in the Y equal to function of X equation. So you will find, so when we go through the multiple techniques, brainstorming techniques, fishbone diagram, cause and effect matrix, cause and effect analysis, the whole idea is to identify those excess. So you will definitely have 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 excess. But end of the day, not all those 30 excess will be significant enough for us to actually go ahead and analyze them, because the impact will not be that much. So the whole idea is to identify those excess and again identify which of them out of those identified ones are the most significant, which can actually or which are actually influencing the output. Okay, so that is what the whole story starts from. Guys, clear with this example? Understood the example? Let's move on to the next one. So to achieve Six Sigma, you need to improve your process performance by minimizing the process variations so that your process has enough room to fluctuate within the limits of customer specifications. So when I say limits of your customer specifications, how do you define a limit of customer specifications? So it will be more from the business who will be giving it to you, because the quality never designs the specifications. It will be more from the help from market research or surveys that tells you what should be the upper or lower limits or based on the customer preferences, and obviously it has to be realistic as well. Shifting your process average so that it is centered between the limits of your customer specification. So DMAC is a systematic and rigorous methodology which can be applied to any process in order to achieve Six Sigma. It consists of 5 phases of a project. Let's look into it. So Six Sigma: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So these are the 5 phases. Currently, we are going to the define phase. So as I discussed earlier, what we'll be doing is we'll be defining the problem. We'll see how to define a problem, how to write the problem statement, how to write the goal statement, how to define a team, how to select a team, what are the different roles, how to create a project charter. So the problem statement, goal statement is all part of project charter. We'll see how it is done in short and brief, but it will change depending on industry to industry. It will not, but the format has to be simple, short, not a big one, but we'll see how to do it. So let's move on. So guys, clear with the 5 phases? This is what we are going to learn. We are going to do the define part. We are going to measure it. We will analyze it. We will improve it, and then we will control it. And the reason it is called as a cycle. So for example, you are a owner or you are a quality head of a particular department, and you have been given a project to run or improve the project overall. Now, when you started defining the problem, you defined a problem, you measured the data that was available, you checked the integrity of the data, you check whether the data is correct or not, you analyze the data after that. After analyzing, you start to improve it. You improve the process in terms of managing or fixing the problems on your critical access, which are, putting variation onto your Y highly, they're influencing it highly, and then controlling it. This is a cycle, it never ends. So it could happen that initially after analyzing, you identified that your process is running at 3 sigma level. After doing the project, you reach to a 4.5 or a 5 sigma level, but that should not stop you. That is a good success achieved, but you have to maintain it, and you have to again see again realize, again do things to go through the entire cycle to see whether you can further improve that process. So that's the reason they call it a DMAC cycle as well. So that is define, measure, analyze, improve, control cycle. Let's move on to the next slide. Each phase has a specific purpose and specific tools and techniques which help in achieving the objective of that phase. So define, what define does? Define and quantify the problem and objective. Measure, baseline process, validate, measures, and identify all the possible excess and dependence wise. So X is, okay, so when we say Y and X, you will also have two terms coming simultaneously, dependent and independent. So Y is always dependent on X and X's are independent. So X will influence Y because those are the inputs. Always remember this. So your Y is always going to be a dependent variable and X or X's will always be independent variables. Analyze. Analyze and validate causes, identifying critical factors. Develop solution, that is in the improve phase. Control phase, implement and sustain solutions. That's how the entire cycle or entire methodology is. So guys, any questions so far? Any questions that we have so far that we have gone through?
No, so far. None.
Otieno, Terry, any questions?
I'm good. I don't have any questions so far.
Okay.
No question.
Guys, I'm sorry, I'll be doing this again and again. I really, because the reason I have taken this, it's not my profession, but I love training. That is the reason, apart from doing my job, I also make sure that, I train guys. I spread the knowledge that I have learned in last 10, 14 years. So I really like people to ask questions, but if they don't, I keep asking the questions again to them. So sorry for that if you feel offended, but I will be doing this on and off. I'll be suddenly putting a bomb in between and asking you a question, and I will expect you to see whether you're able to answer it. If not, I'll repeat it again. Is that okay with everyone?
Definitely,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, great, good. All right, so let's move on to goals. So Six Sigma methodology defined phase. Goals and objectives. So what is the goal of the defined phase? Defined phase is the most important aspect of any Six Sigma project. It defines what the project is setting out to do and scopes the effort. It understands the project's why and how it can and how to measure it. So why is nothing but your output. Goals of the defined phase are establish a solid foundation and business case for a Six Sigma project, quantify the current state of the project to set boundaries around it, determine and quantify the goal. So why I need to establish a solid foundation and a business case? I'm anyways going to do the project. Why I need to establish a solid foundation? Why I need to prepare a business case? Anyone? Okay, so the reason I need to establish a solid foundation and business case is because any project that you'd be doing is not a one-man show. You would need a team, you would need resources in terms of man, machine, money, possibly. And all this comes from approval from top management. So only two reasons. So guys, remember this is out of experience, not out of training material. The only two reasons your project can fail: if you don't have your uh, managers or your top bosses buy in the project, and second, if your data is not right. So if these two things are not in place, or either of them is not in place, your project is going to fail, definitely. So always remember that. So your top management buy-in for you to sponsor the project, and second is the integrity of your data. Clear? So yes, quantify the current state of the project to set boundaries around it. The reason we set boundaries is because we don't want to waste too much of time. So if I have, so it will happen, you will have, there is a term called as scope creep. The reason I'm defining the scope is to make sure that I only work within that boundary, because the project has a definitive goal to be achieved. But while you are doing analysis, while you are digging into data, you are crunching numbers, you will find a lot of things. You'll definitely find a lot of things that can be base of a different project altogether, but that should not allow you to move away from what you have already identified from a defining the problem perspective. So if the problem says that every time I wake up in the morning, no, sorry, let me give you a better example. Every time in associate picks up a call, uh, it takes 10 seconds to answer it. Or when I say as soon as a call hits the contact center machine, it takes 10 seconds to answer the call. But when I'm digging into the reasons, so my why is delaying answering the call. That's the output. Input is okay. It could be that number of staff is less. It could be that people are not trained properly. It could be a technical problem. The phone systems that are using might have problem. It could happen that people are fidgeting around with the phone system. They know how to answer the calls, but just to make sure that the calls are not hitting them because of laziness or integrity issue, they are playing around it. You might find various reasons. There would be few reasons which will not be applicable to the actual problem of calls not being answered within 10 seconds of hitting the contact center. And you will be forced, or you will be, how should I put it? You will be really crazy about it. This is another thing I have found. Let me go ahead and jump into it, look into it, analyze it. No. So quantify the current state of the project. When I say quantify, scope it properly. What exactly you want to analyze, how much you are going to analyze, how much data you are going to use. So those boundary setting is equally important. Otherwise, your project will never end. It will never end. Determine and quantify the goal. Okay, what is the goal? So my problem statement was every time a call hits my contact center, it takes 10 seconds for the call to be answered by an associate. Where I want to reach. Okay, after the end of the project, I would like that the time taken for a call to be answered should come down to 4 seconds. Is there a system in place that can quantify it? Yes, no. If no, then I have to make a system in place. Otherwise, all the efforts I am putting to fix this gap of 6 seconds is of no use if I don't have a system. So it's a hypothetical situation. It will never happen, because today all the contact centers, they have good systems that tells you anything and everything that happens on a call. So determining and quantifying the goal is equally important. So after defining and quantifying the problems and goals, the define phase deals with evaluation, team scope, project planning, timeline, stakeholders, voice of the customer, voice of the business. So we'll look into each one of them as and when we go further. Tools and deliverables. Project charter is a contract between a project team, the champion, and the stakeholders. It defines the what, why, when, and by whom of the project and includes business case, problem statement, project objective and scope, project timeline, project team. Stakeholder assessment for identifying gaps in stakeholder support and developing strategies to overcome the gaps. High level Pareto chart, process maps, VOC, there's nothing but voice of customer. VOB is a voice of business. CTQ is critical to quality requirements. Guys, any questions so far from what we have gone through the last two slides? Any questions? OTNO, Terry, Dean?
Nothing from my end.
Okay,
All good.
all good. Any doubt? So anyways, all this sub points that we are going through, we'll be covering them in detail as and when we go further. This is just a high level summary that we are going through to understand what defined phase consists of. Okay,
Understood.
all right, great. Dean, I'm sure you will be having a lot of questions. I'm expecting more questions from you because you're already into quality. OTN is into projects, and I suppose even Terry, you are from project as well, right? No, OTNO is from quality, again quality, if I'm not mistaken. And Terry is from projects, if I have not forgotten your introductions.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, guys, let's move on. Okay, so we will complete the measure phase and then we'll go on a quick 15 minutes break, and then we'll begin with the rest of the part. So goals and objective of a measure phase. So measure phase establishes the baseline performance of the process. It prioritizes potential excess and measures excess and why. So here we try to identify, so likewise the example that we just took some time back about my why, the problem of whenever the call center gets a call, it takes 10 seconds for an associate to answer it. That was my problem. Now, what are the excess which are influencing them? This is where you start identifying those. Here you'll have almost everyone who is involved in that process. He will be there. It might be an associate, it might be a SME, there might be floor support, team leaders, managers, quality. You will have each and every person representation for each and every department that is supporting that process to get those ideas, those access from them. So the objective of measure phase is to identify all possible excess, assess reliability of measurement system. As I said some time back, the only two reasons your project will fail if you don't have complete support from your sponsors, that is your top bosses, and if your data is not correct. Here is where assessing the reliability of the measurement system. Measurement system is nothing but the system or tool in place that is actually capturing the data that you will be used to analyze your access. Validate assumptions and improvement goals. So we'll talk about it in detail. When I say validate assumptions, so all this excess that we identify, how do we identify it? We use brainstorming sessions, we use fishbone diagram, we use cause and effect matrix, we might even use FEMIA at times. FEMIA is more action oriented as compared to your fishbone diagram or brainstorming session or mind mapping sessions. uh, when we go through other phases, we'll learn or we'll see how it is done in real life, so you'll get a hang of it. But yeah, till the time I'm not able to measure an X, it is an assumption for me. So the statement validate assumptions and improvement goals comes from there. Determine COPQ, cost of poor quality. Refine process understanding. Determine process stability and determine process capability. So we'll also see about these two matrices when it comes to determining how stable your process is. When I say how stable, how well it can perform in any given situation, and also how capable it is, how good it can perform, how error-free outputs it can give. So stable and capable are two terms we'll go through, and there are multiple matrices into it. We will see how it is done, how it is calculated in detail. Moving on to the tools and deliverables. So what we'll be using maps to visualize process. We'll be using SIPOC. SIPOC is nothing but supplier input process output customer. That's how the map is divided and defined. So we'll see how it is done. We'll also use value. We'll also see value stream mapping, not in detail. Value stream mapping in detail is considered in black belt. And guys, just to inform you, the curriculum that we are using right now is for black belt. I'll not be covering few of the black belt items which are there. Otherwise, we will not be able to complete everything in 7 sessions. So the curriculum that you have and that you will be able to download is a proper black belt curriculum. Okay. I always use this one because I feel sometimes when I take green belt batches which are extended like this, like over a period of 7-8 sessions, it's better to cover the entire thing so you get a better visual perspective or a better idea how exactly things happen in the real life and what are the different things that we cover. So Dean, you have joined the right session. You will actually see the entire
I
black
am
belt
here
curriculum.
smiling. I am here smiling.
Okay, great. Let's move on. So we'll also learn failure modes and effect analysis, which also stands for FEMIA, to identify and prioritize possible process failure modes, cause and effect diagrams, X and Y matrix, statistical tools to understand more about the process data. We'll use basic statistics and descriptive statistics. Measurement system analysis. This is to check the integrity of your measurement system from where your data is going to come for your analysis. So there are couple of aspects that will be checked. We'll check variable or attribute gauge RNR. RNR stands for repeatability and reproducibility. More accurately done in contact center environment where the data is coming from audits, for example, there is no manual or automated things happening. Works really well out there. Repeatability and reproducibility checks. Gauge linearity and accuracy or stability. We'll also check that in detail. Basic control charts to assess the process stability. So why? So control charts usually come at the end of the process in the control phase, but they also come in the measure phase to see where exactly a process is standing right now. As of now, where it is. So in order to so I'll also share you end-to-end project done. Like I have one of my friends who was working for a company called as TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. They did a project, and luckily I have it in a PDF format. The entire project has been captured from start to end, like how the project charter was designed, defined, and that's a real life scenario. How much saving did they make? What things they did at different stages, step by step. It will give you an end-to-end visibility after you go through the entire 5 stages in training. It will tell you what was done and you will be able to correlate, and it will be a quick refresher for you when you go through it, how they use different tools in different phases. So that's the beauty of that entire project. So I will share that with you as well. We'll also check at process capability, CPK and PPK and sigma levels, and we'll also look at data collection plan. So guys, clear so far? Any questions, any doubts? Dean, Terry, Otieno, any questions so far what we have covered?
None so far.
Okay, great. All right, guys. Terry, Otieno, you're still there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if no questions, let's take a quick 15 minutes break. Back. Is everyone back?
I'm back.
Great. Great. Terry, you're back? Okay. Terry, you're back? Okay. Let's start. Reformat. Okay, let's start. Okay. So guys, any questions so far before we move on to the next slide? Okay. Let's move on to the next slide then. Now we go into the analyze phase. So goals and objectives analyze phase. is to analyze the relationship between the process performance and the potential root causes and establish a reliable hypothesis for improving solution. Uh, it tests the XY relationship and verifies or quantifies important of X's. So a few slides ago, we said what are the significant X's. The goal of the analyze phase is to identify whether a X that we have identified based on the brainstorming sessions, is it really significant? Is it actually going to impact the Y, the output? And if it is not that significant, then we will remove it from our equation. We will not further analyze it. So objective of analyze phases is to establish the transfer function y is a function of x, validate the list of critical x's and impacts, and create a beta improvement plan, like a test plan, a pilot plan. Tools and deliverables. Here we are going to see hypothesis testing, parametric and non-parametric. We'll learn more about it when we go into the analyze phase. We will also use a t-test, ANOVA, that stand for analysis of variance, chi-square, etc. We'll also look into regression, simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, and if time permits, we will also look into logistic regression. That's also fun. Though it's part of black belt curriculum, but I'll still take it because I really don't want to go into it right now. Otherwise, I'll be digressing from what we have to cover today. But it's actually fun, and it's more fun when you are using it on Minitab. Now we move to the last phase, that's the improve phase. So improve phase implements solution to improve Y and addresses the importance of X's. Objective of improve phase, statistically proven results from active or study or pilot study. Implementation plan, updated stakeholder assessment, revised business case with return on investment, risk assessment, updated FMEA, that is failure mode and effect analysis, and new process capability and Sigma. So if you see this being the last phase, whatever we have defined in the define phase in terms of how much saving, what is the problem, what do we think, what could be the possible savings. When I say possible savings, it will not always that you will have a financial number to correlate what how much saving you are going to do, because from a business perspective you will not always have the financial numbers, and I'm sure you will agree with me. So though we are working into different departments, it might be at a low level or a mid level or a high level, not always you'll have the financial numbers of each and every aspect that we are going to do. So in that case, then we need to have a secondary matrix to decide or define. So if I say that i have to reduce the time, uh, so today, if I call a contact center, it takes 10 seconds for the call to be answered by an associate. But at the same time, if I say that because of this, almost 1,000 calls are abandoned every day. 1,000 calls are abandoned every day. That will definitely impact the customer service, customer satisfaction, and a poor customer satisfaction or poor customer service will result into poor sales end of the day. So even if you are not able to identify or quantify that, if there are 1,000 abandoned calls in a contact center just because of this aspect, even if you are able to show that a decrease of time taken to answer a call from 10 seconds to a 4 second has reduced into your abandoned call percentage by say a 40 or 50%, that itself is a great achievement. Okay, so here we, in the project plan, we will define all those things. We'll see how we are going to do this, but at the end of the project we have to update the stakeholders, we have to do an assessment, we have to keep on informing them about each and every stage what's happening. There will be timelines for each stage, and in those each stages there will be sub timelines in terms of what activity you're going to do based on the objective of that phase. Then there have to be a revised business case with return on investment. So it could happen that you had a target to reduce, so I'm again going to take the same example. You might have a target to reduce the time taken to answer a call from 10 second to say a 5 second, but you were not able to achieve that. Guys, just a minute, I'm getting a call. Sorry, guys. So yes, so coming back to it. So during our initial define phase, when we have actually defined the project charter, we have defined the business case, the problem statement, the goal statement. It's not always that you will actually meet it. If you meet it or exceed it, nothing like it. But even in that case, we have to revise the business case. We have to revise return on investment that the upper management has done in terms of you running the project. So all those numbers have to be updated, all those statements have to be updated and presented again as a final project report to the top management. The risk assessment has to be updated when we do FEMIA. We will be doing FEMIA. We'll see how exactly it is done. You will understand how risk assessment is done. New process capability and sigma levels. So again, we in the measure phase will also see how the CP or CPK, process stability and process capability indexes are captured. After you have implemented or after you have gone through all the 4 phases, in the 5th phase you have to find out what is the new process capability or stability numbers. You have to find out what is the new Six Sigma number. That's the only way you will be able to quantify that yes, your project was a success. Clear, guys? Clear so far? Dean, Terry, Otieno?
Claro.
Okay. Any doubts, any questions so far?
None from my end. I think you have been extremely thorough when it comes on to this phase.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on then. Tools and deliverables. Yes, so improve phase uses appropriate tools from the previous phase to get a desired change in the process performance. We will touch base into DOE, design of experiments. DOE works really well in manufacturing sector, but we'll touch bases because this is not part of the black belt. It's part of black belt curriculum, not green belt curriculum. Uh, Pilot and plan study using hypothesis testing and measurement systems. So if you see, we have already seen hypothesis testing and measurement system analysis in the previous phases. So we do it again to validate what we have done, to prove it statistically correct. Implementation plan for planning, training, preparation to implement the process improvement. We'll also see that. There are more of templates, how the training will be scheduled, how we are going to manage the effectiveness of the training, how you'll make sure that whatever is being trained is properly documented, the knowledge bases are updated, and stuff like that. So there's a list of activities that are being done in the implementation plan. Now, the last phase, control phase. Let's look. The goal of the control phase is a common failure point for a project. Improvements are made, but gains are only temporary if the proper controls are not in place. It monitors important X's and Y over time. So here we'll be seeing a lot of control charts. So why a lot of control charts? You will not always have the same kind of data. Data will be different. Situations would be different. How you monitor them will be different. The frequency would be different. So we'll be going through at least 8 different control charts, and we'll also see in what scenarios we are going to use them. Objective of the control phase is to establish mechanism to ensure that the process sustains improved performance. So control phase, as the name suggests, is all about controlling what you have achieved. Activate a reaction or mitigation plan if the process performance is not sustained. So if it is not sustained over a period of time, what are you going to do? How you're going to make sure it's sustained properly? So a project definitely ends at the control phase, but the actual work never ends. It's a continuous improvement thing. It keeps on moving. Only then, so for example, if I have made sure that I have definitely gone to the entire DMAC phase, I have made sure that from a 10-second hold time before the call hits the extension for associate, I have brought it down to 5 seconds. But after the project is finished, after 3 months, it's again gone to 8 seconds. I'm at loss. Something is not in place. So I need to identify those critical access. I have to make sure those critical access have been constantly monitored. And I have to make sure that that 8 second, that thing that I have achieved at 5 seconds should not fall down further. It should improve, it should go down from 5 to 4 or 3, but it should not go below that. So it's all about sustaining it. All right, control phase tools and deliverables. So control charts to monitor process inputs and outputs for stability and quick identification when the process goes out of control. So statistical process control, SPC, or control chart. So there are different charts. Few to name are IMR, X bar S, X bar R, P, NP, U, C, and so on and so forth. Don't get confused or psyched with these names. These names have a full form. They have a reason behind it why they are named like that, and they also have some prerequisites before you can use them. So we'll see or look into it in detail when we go to the control phase. Control plan document it to identify control plan to identify and monitor control points, training plan for proper training of employees to perform process changes, communication plan to alert stakeholders of any change, and audit checklist. Lean tools to mistake proof process and to organize the workplace, making it more visual. So it's not only in a contact center or a business process outsource center. You will always find wherever there is manufacturing or in customer service industry, you have displays, display boards, you will have Kanban charts, you have visual displays of fixing things. So when we go into the lean methodologies like Pokayoke to mistake proof, 5S to organize the workplace to make it more visual, and Kanban to achieve just-in-time production. We'll see them in depth. All right. Now we'll quickly move on to the. So guys, any questions so far with all the phases and the objectives and tools and stuff? Any questions? Any questions? Terry, Otieno?
No question. No question for me.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right, so let's move on to the next one. I'm sure Dean is always on, not on mute, so I'm sure he'll throw me a question whenever he has. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dean.
You're 100% correct.
Good. Let's move on. Roles and responsibilities. Again, very important. Roles in Six Sigma program, belts and complementary. Each role has many responsibilities in executing a project. So there are 4 Six Sigma belts. You have a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. You have a Six Sigma Black Belt. You have a Six Sigma Green Belt. You have a Six Sigma Yellow Belt. And in few organizations, they also have a white belt. So what is the difference? Yellow belt, let me start with white belt. White belt only talks from a defined phase perspective. They don't go into any other phases. So it's more of an overview that you get exactly what um, a Six Sigma is all about. Yellow belt covers the first 2 or 3 phases of the DMAX cycle. And again, as I said, it's a framework, it's not a governance model. So you will not always find all the things taught in detail in yellow belt. Green. And why white belt and yellow belt? Why we have these belts? Because mostly white belts and yellow belts are more into data collation, data analysis at a very low level. They don't run majority of the tools or techniques that are used in a black belt or a green belt project. They always need assistance from a black belt or a master black belt. A black belt. Black belt. Okay, so in order for you to get a yellow belt exam, yellow belt, you will find a lot of companies, a lot of training institutes offering white belt and yellow belt. Green belt requires you to go through the entire 5 phases, learn everything. It's only question and answers that you need to answer to secure a certificate. Black belt requires definitely training, a black belt training. It also requires to work on a project. So there are 2 two steps in passing a black belt exam. You have to complete your written exam and you have to submit a end-to-end black belt project. Only then you get a final certification. For a master black belt, a black belt needs to do at least end-to-end 4 to 5 black belt projects. It has to be submitted in a format. Master black belt definitely has a written exam as well, and so the prerequisite is completing at least 4 black belt projects and a written exam for a master black belt certification. So guys, clear with the different belts that we have in Six Sigma? Okay, questions? Let me move on. So there are the complementary roles. So what are these complementary roles? Champions and sponsors, stakeholders, subject matter expertise. So who are champions? Who is a champion? As per you, what should be or who should be a champion? Dean, any idea? I'm expecting an answer for you from you.
Well, a champion typically is the sponsor, the manager of the business. So that is the
Okay.
person that will be responsible for the stream or the to identify the high priorities of the Six Sigma team. So more so, they play a pivotal role
Hmm.
because they'd be the ones that would predominantly own the process of the business, and
Hmm.
therefore they must ensure that the process improvements would have been captured and more so from the control phase sustained.
Yep, absolutely right. So champions and sponsors can be the same, but mostly champions are the process owners, head of the departments or head of a particular process, and they know the process in and out, uh, and they know what are the pain areas as well. It could happen that uh, the pain areas would be coming from them and they would be directing a black belt or a master black belt depending on the organization to actually run a project based on the problem statement that they give. um, but again, it's just a problem statement that you would see. Finally, it's up to you to validate it, make a project charter, present it before you get an approval to start on a project. Stakeholders can be anyone. It can be internal stakeholders, it can be external stakeholders. When I say external stakeholders, anything who are associated with the process or project, but um, not directly involved. So it could happen that I have a contact center department who takes care of the entire operations. Then there will be a sales team, there could be a manufacturing team. uh, those are, they can be external stakeholders. They are impacted but in an indirect way, or they might be impacting us in an indirect way as well at the same time. um, Subject matter experts, the name suggests subject matter expert is someone who knows everything in and out, uh, who are the go-to guys in terms of understanding the as is process. When I say as is process, um, what exact process is going on the floor, what exact process is being followed apart from the one that is being documented or supposed to be followed. So there are 3 processes in real life scenario that a Six Sigma expert like you and me should look into. uh, as is process, to be and should be. So as is nothing but that is currently being followed, not definitely that is currently captured to be followed as a process. So as is, to be, and should be. Should be something where it should be in terms of after the improvements have been done. What is the vision of taking the process to? So this will be 3. So we'll be talking about it in detail. So guys, clear so far? Roles and responsibilities. Can we move on to the next slide?
I think my only question would have been what's the difference between the to be and should be? I think to be would have been what you're aiming to accomplish at the end of the deployment of the Six Sigma process. What is the should be?
Okay. So as I said, it should be to be, should be, sorry, as is, should be, and to be. So when I say as is process, so let me give you an example. Um, as is process is, so when you have,
I think I
uh,
would,
pe- yeah,
sorry for interrupting. I think I would have gotten the as is, which more so would have been saying this is what they're doing. To be
mhm,
is what you're looking to accomplish when the process ends, right? I think what
mhm.
I'm missing would have been the should be.
Yes, so should be is something that I want to accomplish after the project is over. So to be is something, a standard process as per the documentation or agreed standards to be followed. But what happens over a period of time, people do not follow the process, and that's the reason your audit fails or people have low audit scores. So if I say once a call hits an extension, it has to be answered within 2 seconds. People don't do it. They know it, but they don't do it. So the as is process or the should be process says to be process says that you have to answer the call within 2 seconds. But as is process is that people are not answering it. So they have created their own variation. You
Gotcha.
getting me?
So I'm assuming no, the should be can not necessarily mean that the to be and the should be would be equal. So for
No, no,
example,
no,
if you're
not at
at
all.
if you're supposed to be answering at 2 seconds, which is
Hmm.
what your goal is, and you're
Mhm,
answering right now at 10 seconds, your
hmm.
should be can see you cutting that down to 4, not necessarily hitting the goal, which would have still been an accomplishment, but
Yeah,
still not where you necessarily gotcha. I think
right,
I'm
right,
calibrated now.
right. Absolutely right, Dean. So again, there are a couple of things that have to be looked into. So whether when I say 2 seconds, is it possible to have a call answered in 2 seconds? Whether the process, the to be process that is documented, is it actually considered looking in the facts whether it's achievable or not? As this process is what is being followed across based on people's experiences or their own thought process behind the so-called process, and should be something that I want to achieve after the process ends or after my project ends. So are we clear with this? So the variation is
Extremely,
where the as is process comes from.
extremely clear. Thanks for the clarity.
Right. All right. So roles and responsibilities of a master black belt. Master black belts are the most experienced, educated, and capable Six Sigma experts. Master black belts are very technical savvy with all concepts and tools. Let's check. So roles guides the certifies black belts and green belts, ensures proper and consistent application for Six Sigma across departments. So usually in big companies where they actually have quality management at a larger scale, you have a master black belt who actually owns multiple projects or looks through multiple projects, and he has many black belts under them, and those many black belts under them would have green belts and yellow belts depending on the requirement of the project. So he leads multiple Six Sigma projects at the same time, works with the management to help assess the business plan, strategies, and tactics, advises management on COPQ, that is the cost of poor quality, and consults on methods to improve business performances. What are his responsibilities? He establishes scope, goals, timelines, and milestones, aligns and marshals resources, facilitates checkpoint for belt candidates. So when I say belt candidates, who is good for a yellow belt or a green belt certification, updates stakeholders and executives, establishes organization Six Sigma strategy or roadmap, leads an implementation of Six Sigma. What is a black belt? So let's look into black belt. Black belt is the most active Six Sigma profession among all the Six Sigma belts. The black belt has valuable experience in project management, task management, and team management. What are his roles? Lead multiple projects, trains and mentors green belt candidates, defines the problem and drives effective solutions. Responsibilities. Okay. From a project management perspective, defines project scope, teams, etc., marshal resources at the project level, establishes goals, timelines, milestones, provides reports or updates to stakeholders and executives. Task management establishes teams, Lean Six Sigma roadmap, plans and implements the use of Lean Six Sigma tools, facilitates project meetings, does project management of the team works, manage project progress towards objectives. Team management, choose or recommend team members, define ground rules of the project team, coaches, mentors, and direct project teams, coach coaches other Six Sigma belts, green belts and yellow belts, obviously, manages the team's organizational interface. So this is all definitely good to know information from that role perspective. Uh, I'm more keen for you to know from green belt because that you will be learning. So we'll move on to the green belt and see what exactly a green belt does. A green belt is less intense version of black belt, Six Sigma professional with identical roles and responsibilities. Let's check. Implement projects in addition to other normal job responsibilities. So apart from, so now the dean is handling quality, TNO is handling quality, Terry is part of project management. So apart from your day-to-day job, you have to do your green belt responsibilities. You have to implement projects in apart from what you're doing on day-to-day basis. And yes, obviously you mentor the yellow belts. Helps a black belt professional in project management, task management, and team management. So they play a parallel role. That's the reason the same things have not been copied in here, but they don't work at the same intensity level as a black belt would do. Moving on to the yellow belt. Yellow belt has enough understanding of Six Sigma to be effective in assisting other Six Sigma belts with their projects. Supervisors, managers, directors, and sometimes executives are usually trained at the yellow belt level. Roles of a yellow belt: serve as a subject matter expert regarding some aspects of the process or project. Responsibilities: help define project scope and parameters, contributes to team selection process, assist in information and data collection, participates in experimental analysis like FEMIA, process mapping, cause and effect diagram. That is where you will try to find out your excess of the why that has been defined as a problem. Assist in assessing and developing solution, deliver solution implementation. So guys, clear so far with the different belts and their roles and responsibilities? Okay, no answer. That means everyone has understood it. I'll move on.
I am clear.
Okay, great. Let's move on. Roles and responsibilities of a champions and sponsorer. Important complementary roles. So in addition to the four Six Sigma belts, there are few complementary roles. Champions and sponsorer, subject matter experts, and stakeholders. So each complementary role, let's click on champions and sponsorer. So champions and sponsorer play critical roles in successful deployment of Six Sigma. They may be directors, executives, managers, anyone. Set direction for the project and ensure its success by obtaining resource and funding, knocking down barriers to the progress. So as I said, it's not just about so your project will always be successful if you have complete support from your sponsors. So they will not only provide you with the resources or required funding, resources in terms of systems, software, humans who will be helping you on the projects, getting them trained, all the funding that would be required, knocking down any barriers to the progress is also something that they do. Responsibilities: establish strategy and direction of project, define success, provide resolution for issues, establish checkpoints or project reviews, enable solution implementation, assist in project team formation. So this is my experience. So in organizations who don't have the quality culture or who don't have the Six Sigma culture, but they have just trying to get into it, people really face a lot of challenges. Why? People don't want to change. So when I say people don't want to change, anyone who is working in quality, like Dean or OTNO, will agree with me that even if we have there are set standards, people don't want to change. They have become the way they are because they feel what they are doing is right. So accepting this changes in the work culture, the way things are, the process, it becomes a bit difficult. So this is where the champions and sponsors play a very critical and vital role to help to break down those barriers, to help to make sure that they have convinced everyone involved in the process to make sure that your project is a success. Moving on to subject matter experts. So SMEs are experts of the process or subject matters with extensive knowledge about the process. So these are the people who will tell you how exactly the as is process works. Something that is not captured, something that is not documented. Experience to judge solution. As they have worked in the process inside out, they would know it better on top of the head, all the possible variations that would be coming across. And that's the reason SMEs are part of the Six Sigma project, because they play a really vital role to identify those excess which are there in the system. Innovative ideas to help implement changes. In terms of why these people are able to give better ideas as compared to anyone, is because they are actually working on the ground. They know what are the situations, they know what are the challenges, they know the workarounds. But because of the culture or because of lack of change, they keep it to themselves. So they are very crucial for any projects. Moving on to stakeholders. Stakeholders are the owners or beneficiaries of the Six Sigma project. So, can a champion or a sponsor be a stakeholder?
Short answer, yes.
Good. Otieno Terry, would you agree with Dean?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right. Stakeholder support is vital for the success of the project. Right. So that is where we. So, guys, any questions so far in terms of roles and responsibilities for all the four belts that we went through, and champions, sponsors, stakeholders, subject matter experts? Anything, any question, any doubt you have, please ask.
Less of a doubt, more so of a question, and this is just out of curiosity. If you're
Mhm,
deploying a Six Sigma methodology within an organization and it doesn't encompass all the individuals that would have been listed above
mhm,
or previously, is it
mhm.
possible to quantify it as a success, or is it that all the relevant resources are required for it to be considered an official Six Sigma project?
See, Dean, as I said initially, the entire Six Sigma is a framework. So depending on the organization, depending on the resource availability, it could have that you might be running a project along with you, just one or two people, and not all the roles would be fulfilled. So what if your organization just has a green belt? That should not stop you in going ahead and doing a project. So green belt
Yeah,
definitely has, yeah.
no, man, I totally agree and understand. I think more so just from an overall calibrative perspective, I wanted
Mhm,
to find out if globally that would still be considered as a Six Sigma project. I know it can be deployed, but more so
mhm,
from a consideration perspective. If it's only a green belt deploying same or only a black belt that is certified, but the project
mhm.
is completed, would it be qualified as a Six Sigma project or no?
If you have made that kind of savings and the finance team of your company approves it, definitely it will be qualified for a project.
Thank you.
Great. So yes, any other questions? Okay, let me move on to the next one then. Summary and key takeaways. Let's just go through a quick takeaway for each one. Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a business management strategy which aspires to improve the quality of any process by eliminating variations. What are the Six Sigma levels? Six Sigma level measures the number of sigma between the process average and the nearest customer specification. Six Sigma level is a measure, six is the goal. 99.9997% products are defect free at a Six Sigma level. What is Six Sigma approach? Six Sigma approach uses a transfer function, which is a mathematical expression of the relationship between the inputs and outputs of a system. Y being your output or measure of the process, fx nothing but the function of x, and x's are your factors or inputs which are going to affect your y. TMAC methodology. DMAC is a systematic and rigorous methodology which can be applied to any process in order to achieve Six Sigma. Six Sigma belts. You have four belts: master black belt, green belt, and yellow belt. And the other complementary roles are champions and sponsors, stakeholders, subject matter experts. So now we'll move into the fundamentals of Six Sigma. Once we complete the course, we will be able to define process and process maps and list types of process maps. Explain the term voice of customer, VOC, critical to quality, CTQ, quality function deployment, and cost of poor quality. QFD is a very big topic. We'll be learning it from the green belt perspective only. Build an affinity diagram, a CTQ tree, and house of quality. This is another very big topic. Again, from a black belt perspective, it's a black belt topic, but still we'll go get your overview how exactly it is and what exactly it is all about. It requires a lot of data, not only from your company but from other as well, like competition and stuff like that. So we'll look into it once we go through it. Last but not the least, we'll also see how to create a Pareto chart. Okay, so defining a process. Process is a set of activities or tasks that produce a specific service or product for customers. Process map helps determine the beginning and end of a process, as well as all the steps and decisions in between. It helps to set project scopes, identifies value added and non-value added steps, identify problems in a process, etc. So as the statement says, if you want to create a process flow, what are the two most important things you would need? Terry, can you answer? Terry?
I thought I had unmuted. You need
No
to
worries.
know. You need to
So
know if you want to create a process. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you want to create a process, you need to know where you are at and what you want to achieve. Like you need to know. Yeah, you need to
Okay.
define your endpoint so that you can break it down in terms of, you can break it down into various tasks.
Okay, good. So yes, absolutely right, Terry. You would need to know what is the beginning, that's the start point, and the end point of the process. And then obviously that will help you to identify or decide what are the steps involved to achieve your outcome, that is the end goal. And this is also critical because this will help you to set the scope of your project. And it also helps you to identify any value added and non-value added activities or steps in identifying the problems in a process. Good one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay. So a process map is a graphical representation of a process flow. It is a step-by-step visualization of a business process and depicts how material and information sequentially flows within a process. It helps to understand and drive discussions around a process and displays the inputs and outputs of individual process steps. It also illustrates who is responsible for each step in the process. A process map is a very important for any organization. It helps to define or narrow down the scope of a process, identify non-value adding steps, analyze potential failure points in a process, identify the points where employees aren't adhering to the process. So to identify potential failure points of a process, be honest when defining the current state. Very, very important. So the as is process flow is very important. It plays a major role to help you to reach the should be process flow or process goal. So can anyone explain me what is a non-value adding step, or as per you, what can be a non-value adding step in any process? Anyone? What do you think is a non-value adding step?
I think it's something you've included as something that people have to adhere to, but whether it's done or not, it doesn't have an impact on the end, like on reaching your goal.
Absolutely right. So, for example, um, if I so let's see, if I go to a coffee shop to buy a coffee, I pay the money, I get the coffee. But in between the process of me paying for the coffee and getting it, there are many non-value added activities. So it could be moving. So I paying the cashier. He gives me a receipt that I present on the counter where I'm going to get the coffee. If the coffee is ready, I'll be served a coffee. If not, they will prepare it and they'll let me know. Then either I will walk and get the coffee or someone else will serve me on the table. So all this movement that is happening in between while I'm served the coffee, I'll get the coffee, is a non-value adding activity because not actually enhancing the experience of the coffee or the output of the coffee or the taste of the coffee. It is not going to impact the attributes, the required attributes of the coffee. So these are all non-value adding activities. So rightly fine, identified, Teddy. Good one. Seems Otieno is having some technical trouble. Okay, no worries. We'll
I
wait
think
for
I
him
would
to
have
join
had
again.
a question around that one though, Vishal. I
Yep.
think the time that is spent for the preparation, would that not be value? Because again, it would have been patience. It's going to have you waiting a while, unless you're only focusing on the quality of the coffee that you're receiving. But if it
Hmm.
takes a while for it to be prepared and you have to be waiting around, then that is going to be running into your personal time.
Hmm.
Wouldn't that
Hmm.
be added value?
See, it totally depends. What are you looking at for? For example, what is value for you?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. I think that would have been more so my question because if
Yeah.
we're only focusing on the coffee or the
Yeah.
quality of the coffee, it would have been no value. But again, if you're looking at it holistically to say, you know, what,
Yeah.
I need to
Mm.
get in and get out, then that could be
Yeah.
value added. So it's
Yeah. So,
specific to what we're
right.
looking at.
Yep, yep, definitely. Correct, Dean. So the value will definitely matter. So again, not everyone would prefer to go to a coffee house or some top brand coffee shop where I end up paying good hefty amount for just a cup of coffee. Obviously, it's more of luxury and experience for me because I'm sitting in an air-conditioned room. I might prefer to go for a small coffee shop where I can just get a quick coffee and just run around with it. So it totally depends on the value aspect of it as well. But again, so any activity, so in this, even if I go to a top notch restaurant where they are going to make coffee, obviously there will be some set standards defined. So it will not happen that if I go in that restaurant today and I have placed my order, it will take X amount of time for the coffee to reach me every time. So even if time taken is more than what it usually takes, is not going to enhance the quality of the coffee. It is still non-value adding activity for me. So for example, for some change, there is a rush at the coffee shop, and usually I visit. It takes 10 minutes for the coffee to be served to me. But that fine day, it took more time. It took almost 20 minutes, but that has not enhanced the actual uh, quality or taste or richness of the coffee that I drink. It's the same that I drink every day. So don't we feel that that is a non-value adding activity for me?
Totally understood. Again, it would have been dependent on what you're
Yeah,
looking to
right,
accomplish, and yours would have been
right.
ensuring that your quality of coffee is always
Hmm,
consistent. So,
that's right. Yeah,
totally understood.
yeah, great. Just a minute, guys. I'm getting a quick call. Sorry. All right, guys, thank you very much for your patience. Let's begin. Okay, so basic symbols, again, very important to know. Symbols used in process maps. Let's click on each symbol and see what exactly it means. Let's click on basic symbols. So terminator oval shows the start and end in the process. Process rectangle indicates a single step process. Decision, the diamond box, it indicates a question with two choices, yes or no. A flow line arrow shows the direction of the process flow. Process symbols, again, a rectangle box with smooth edges would indicate a alternate process. So indicates a process step as an alternative of a normal step. Predefined process, so indicates a formally defined process step. Other documentation or instruction is needed to support further details of the step. Manual operation indicates a process step conducted manually. Diamond box, it will indicate a preparation stage. Delay would be something like this, indicates a waiting period in the process. Files and symbols, this is again more from IT perspective. We can go through it as and when you find time, but this is not, this is more from IT, or I'll say only IT perspective, not anything else. Control and flow symbols, this is more apt for production houses or production processes if you want to look into. So indicate, so off page connectors indicate the process flow continues into another page. This can be applicable to us as well if the process is really in detail and you cannot confine it in a single page. Merge indicates multiple process merge into one. Extract indicates a process splits into multiple parallel processes. This is an OR indicator, indicates a single data processing flow diverges to multiple branches with different criteria requirements. Again, IT or network perspective. Swimming junction indicates multiple data processing flows converging into one. So this is all good to know, but you should be very well clear about this basic symbols. So luckily I have a live process. I'm sure Dean would have seen many process flows. I have few of my own. Let me just see if I have it. Okay, this is not this one. Okay. So guys, this is a tool called as Visio. Have you heard about it? So Visio is a professional process flow designing tool. It's again from Microsoft. This is a process flow, incident management process flow. If you see how exactly it flows from one department to the other to the third one. And this is a start point, the start indicator, and this is the end point here. So if you see there are color codings in terms of the flow lines, it makes it easier to read if we are actually moving from one department to the other. So if you see from here, the process starts and it goes to a L1 team in service desk, and the color is different. But within the process, within that team, the process flow lines are regular ones. As soon as it moves to another process, again the line changes, just to make sure that you are able to read and understand it very clearly. So people do add their own touches. This is the way I do it, and this is how a process flow looks in a real life situation. But we'll quickly also see the other process flows. So guys, clear with the symbols so far? Any questions, any doubts with symbols?
None
Terry?
from my end.
Yep, Dean, anything?
No
None from my
question.
end, pretty clear.
Okay. Otieno, I seems that you have been facing a lot of connectivity issue. You have been on and off. Are you able to? I would really recommend you to go through the session videos whenever you find time in the coming week. Otherwise, it will be a bit difficult for you to connect when we start the next session next week. Can you hear us, Otieno?
Yeah.
Okay, let me move on to the next slide. That is how to plot a process map. So a process map depicts a flow of entire process or a segment. So step 1, step 2, let's see what is there in steps. Step 1, step 2, I'm sorry, let me check. Okay, step 1. Step 1 is to defining boundaries. So identify and define the beginning and the end of the point of the process that we just discussed, and Teddy answered. Wonderful. Moving on to the next one. Determine the sort of process steps into the proper order. Consult the process SMEs and or observe the process to understand how a process is actually performed. Determine and sort the process steps. So usually in real life scenario, the way I capture a process flow is definitely the start and end has to be defined first, but I actually note down all the steps one by one in logical sequence based on SMEs or people who are well versed with the process, and then I try to chart the process in between. It becomes really easy, and it is not time consuming, because when you start doing it in actual uh, software like Visio, if you have something written handy, it becomes very easier for you to start working on it straight away. Map the process using appropriate symbols. So fill the steps information into appropriate process symbols and plot the diagram. Map the process with sticky notes or different colors on whiteboard and record the map using Excel, PowerPoint, or Visio. So another way, instead of writing down, if you have a whiteboard or a board where you can use uh, sticky notes, nothing but small parchments of paper with glue behind them, you can use them to actually write down and put it on a wall or a board and draw the process flow. That also is very easy to do, because especially if you're doing or trying to capture the process flow in a group, that's the best way to do it, because it's visually appealing. People can see how the process is flowing and they can put their inputs in and there itself, and you can make changes. And then once it is finalized, you can actually put it in PowerPoint or Visio. Or Visio is the best way to do it, because you can convert it into any format, even PDF for that sake. So use swim lane process maps to depict the responsibilities of the process steps. It can be done vertically and horizontally. Swim lanes show organizations, roles, or functions within the business. So what we see here, business unit 321, is nothing but called as a swim lane. So it can be horizontal, it can be vertical. And what we just saw, the diagram that I just shared, this is nothing but 3 swim lanes, 1, 2, and 3, depicting how exactly the process flows within 3 different departments from start to end. Okay, so that's how a process flow looks. There is a decision box as well, yes, no, start and end point. But if you see, there are no other symbols that we have used. It's quite simple. It's just the start and end point, the rectangle, the decision box is mainly what is being used, until unless you are making it a bit technical or it is more specific to a particular industry. And you can also have shapes. So if you see here, depending on the kind of business or what you want to do, if you want to do brainstorming, you can use a brainstorming shapes, business process shapes, charts and graphs, organization charts. It's a never ending story. So belt organization charts, say, there's a lot into it. Engineering, electrical, mechanical, process engineering, everything is there. So that's the beauty of it. But the sad part is it doesn't come along with the standard Microsoft Office package. You have to purchase it separately. Okay, let's move on to the next ones. This step is done. Identify and record the input output. So identify and record the inputs X's and output Y for each process step. Identify the vital few points which have significant effect on the outcome of the process. Analyze the inputs qualitatively and quantitatively to understand how to monitor and control variations in the process. So in the transfer function, X's are the inputs and Y are the output of the process. Remember, Y is a function of X. Evaluate the process map and adjust if needed. So you have to evaluate it once it is done. Create additional detailed sub-process maps if the process is too complicated to be covered in single process maps. Number of process steps in order of their occurrence for clarity. So I used to work for an Australian telecom company called as Optus. They had their knowledge base very well and wonderfully defined. So though we used to support, we were part of technical support. I was looking into the quality of the technical support. Every process step or every process map there was not more than 5 or 6 steps at any given point of time. It used to be process flow and the details of how to perform those steps on the same page. And if there is any corresponding step that has to be taken, like if there is a decision box, whether it has fixed your issue, yes, no. If you click on no, it used to go to another page with another process flow to be followed with steps there documented. So in a real life scenario, if you can, it doesn't happen, to be honest, because processes are very convoluted as the time has been progressing. If you can fit a process map with just 5 or 6 steps between your start and end point, it will be really easy to understand and read and apply and implement. But if the process flows has lot into it, it will be a never ending story. So again, you have high level process maps and low level process maps. Low level process maps will just give you an overview, high level, but don't go with the number of steps. A small process map can also be low level, but again, it depends whether it covers the actual purpose of the process map that we have created. High level can be end to end. So what I just showed you on Visio, that's a high level, that's a low level process map, not high level. High level will have details of each and every step, or if not details and each and every step are captured in the process flow, they will be documented below the process map just to secure the understanding of the people who are going to use it. Clear, guys? Any doubts, any questions with process map so far? Dean, all clear?
Pretty clear, extremely clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. Otieno, Terry, clear?
Very clear.
Okay, good. Let's move on. High level process map. Most high level process maps are also referred to as flowcharts. The key to a high level process map is to oversimplify the process being depicted so that it can be understood in its most generic form. So just don't go with the name high level. High level doesn't mean that it's a big process flow, it is having multiple process steps. No, high level means it has to be very generic and easy to understand. And as it mentions, the general rule is a high level process map should not be more than 4 to 6 steps. That's the general rule of thumb. Below is an oversimplified version of a high level process map for cooking 10-pound prime rib for a dozen holiday guests. Just preheat the oven, prepare the meat, cook the meat. Is it done? No. Again cook the meat. Is it done? Yes. Remove and let set, and then carve and serve. So this is a high level process map of how to cook a 10-pound prime rib. Clear, guys? You see, it's not talking about the nitty-gritties, but it's talking about is the most generic form. And while I'm going through it, I can actually visualize it how it is being done. So that's the beauty of it. Let's move on to the next one, detailed process map. So a detailed process map or multi-level maps take a high-level map much further. Detailed maps can be 2 to 4 level deeper than your high-level process map. A good guideline used to help create the second level is to take each step in the high-level map and break it down to 2 to more steps. No, not more than that. So let's take an example. Repeat the process level 3, level 4 until reaching the desired level of detail. Some detailed maps are 2 or 3 levels deep. Other can be 5 to 6 level deep. Obviously, the deeper the levels, the more complex and more burdensome. So we will take the same example of the cooking of prime rib. At left is our prime rib cooking example at level 2 details. So we just saw the same process flow some time ago, but now just adding some more details to it. Let's see how the process flow has changed. So let meat stand at room temperature for 4 hours. Possibly I want to marinate it. Then preheat the oven at 400 degrees. Prepare seasoning, rub seasoning on the meat. Sear meat 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Remove meat, and then oh, you know what is missing in here, guys? Can someone tell me what is missing in here? Terry, can you identify what is missing in here?
No. Okay.
What is missing? So we went through all the symbols, right? We went through the basic symbols like the start and end, the rectangle, the flow arrow. What is missing in here? What, you know, would you like to give it a try? Dean, would you like to give it a try?
I'm seeing a missing flow arrow to connect from removing the meat at 2 minutes.
Absolutely
So
right. Absolutely right. Yes. So there's arrow in between is
Oh,
missing. So your process breaks. And if
okay.
you have this situation, you will never know where to go. Obviously, this is a simple process, and this is a cooking process, so not too much of a problem out here. But in real life situation, if you have something like this, it can cause chaos. So yes. So from remove meat for 2 minutes, the arrow should go to reduce oven, and then it should go on again. Place meat, and if you see, we have added more details. The more details we have added, it is giving us the more insight at actual level. And again, if I have to say every step that I'm doing, is it adding value to the actual process of cooking the meat rib? Every process step that I see here, is it adding value to the actual prime rib being cooked?
it does.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yes, absolutely. So every step here you see is a value adding activity. So if I don't do either of the steps, it will not give me the same kind of output when I'm cooking the prime rib with all the steps involved or inculcated. So these are all value adding activities or steps in order to achieve a cooking of a prime rib. Okay, guys, clear? Can you move on to the next slide? Let's move on. So functional process maps. The functional map adds dimension to the high level or detailed map. The dimension added is identifying which function or job performs the step or makes a decision. So below is a generic example of a functional map. Note that functions are identified in horizontal lanes and each process step is placed in the appropriate lane based on which function performs the step. Okay, so the process flow remains the same, but I'm just adding horizontal lines and dividing it into swim lanes, so it becomes very easier for me to identify. So out of all the steps that I have in the process flow, who is responsible at what stage, which function is responsible to make sure that that particular step is being taken. So the Visio map that I just showcased some time ago, it is an example of a functional map. So how it moves, so the process flow remains the same, but just adding the functionalities or departments, I come to know who is responsible for what and at what stage of the process. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on. VOCs and CTQs, very important. So guys, before we go ahead, it's 8:15 in my watch. So guys, is it fine if we end a bit early today, being the first day, like 10-15 minutes early?
No issues from my end.
Or you
That's
want to
okay.
make sure that or you want to make sure that we end it by at 9:30 sharp?
No, I
9:30
think
sharp
we're
my time.
good if we're
Okay.
able to, if we're closing a bit early. Once we're not behind on content and we're comfortable for the coming weeks, I don't think that should be an issue for me.
Okay. No worries. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick 15 minutes breather, come back, and we'll start with VOCs and CTQs. So guys, right now, so for this is generally for everyone. That is what I suggest. The first phase, the define phase, it's more of a theory and good to know and mix of need to know information as well. But the fun starts at the end of the define phase and it goes on till the last till the improve phase. Control phase, we'll be learning more about the control charts, but uh, you have to practice it. That's the only way to get a hang of it. uh, just a minute guys. Okay. Right. Okay. So guys, let's take a quick 15 minutes break. I'm back. Let's begin. Dean, Terry, can we start? Are you back? Are you guys back?
I am.
Yeah. Here.
Okay, great. Let's start. So now we move on to VOC and CTQ. So VOC stands for Voice of Customers and CTQ stands for Critical to Quality. VOC stands for Voice of Customers. Voice of Customer is a term used for data-driven plan to discover what customer wants and needs. VOC is an important component to a successful Six Sigma project. So when we say VOC, there are other terms as well. So primarily three forms. We have VOC, we have VOB, and VOA. So voice of customer is the end customer who is going to use your products or services. VOB is a voice of business that's come from your top management or from middle management or lower management. And VOA, voice of associates, are coming directly from the associates who are actually working at the ground level who are serving our customers. So how it is done, let's see. So gathering VOC should be performed methodologically. The two most popular methods of collecting VOCs are indirect and direct. So indirect data collection for VOC involves passive information exchange. It could be warranty claims, customer complaints, compliments, service calls, sales reports. Indirect methods are also effective, sometimes dated, but they require heavy interpretation and are also more difficult to confirm. So for example, warranty claims will tell you how and where your products are failing, and you will come to know at a given point of time. You will have first hand data available. Customer complaints and compliments actually helps a lot. Again, it requires some interpretation. It can be done via surveys, where you have different methods. So if you want to gauge relationship strength, then you have NPS, that is called as a net promoter score, but that is more accurate in customer service driven area. Service calls is more with the calls that are made to the contact center in terms of servicing, in terms of product usage and stuff. Sales reports can also help, but those are just numbers that will not be coming directly from an end customer. It will be an aggregation of that. But your service calls, customer complaints, or compliments, if defined well, uh, you can get a lot of valid insights from that. Indirect methods can be surveys or focus groups, but again, it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of resources. Mostly, it is outsourced. It would require sampling sometimes. Again, it's a lot of resourcing, a lot of cost involved, but it can be very difficult to interpret as well because the time taken till the time the complete data is analyzed or received can be quite backdated. So it might not be give you as is situation as of today about the product or service. So direct data collection methods for VOC are active and planned customer engagement. So conducting interviews, conducting customer surveys, conducting market research, hosting focus groups. But again, this though they are direct, but again they take some time. Direct methods are typically more effective for several reasons. Less need to interpret meaning because you are prepared when you are going to conduct an interview or a market survey. You have a set of questions. You know what you're going to ask, how you're going to ask. Is it going to open-ended or close-ended? Are you going to use a rating system? So all those things plays a lot of it plays a lot of heed when you're actually doing a direct data collection. So researchers can go a little deeper when interacting with the customers. Customers are aware of their participation and will respond better upon follow-up. Researchers can probably plan engagements, questions, sample size, information collection techniques, so on and so forth. So if I want to know, if I want to launch a premium car in the market, obviously my sample size would be someone who already owns a BMW or an Audi or some high-end car. I'll not go to the end user who is using possibly a Volkswagen low-end model or something of that sort. So my target or sample size will be clearly defined, what I'm going to target or whom I'm going to ask those questions. The collection techniques will also matter a lot. Is it going to be direct? Is it going to be face to face? When I say direct, is it going to be telephonic, or is it going to be via email? Is it going to be via letter? Or is it going to be like a focus group that I'm just going to launch my car and I'm sending invitation for you to come and join us, so that you can actually get a feel of the car, and at the same time I can ask questions or I can get a questionnaire filled by you. I can give you a gift hamper, stuff like that. So all those things matter most. So I was learning RPA a couple of years ago, and I got a chance to actually attend one of the leading RPA company, UiPath. They had a very huge seminar in Mumbai, and they obviously it's a very big company, one of the top three RPA organizers, and that is where I identified how the marketing things works at a ground level. That was the first time I ever actually went for such kind of seminar where we're actually talking about the product and how it has been used in the market, which companies are already making benefits out of it, so on and so forth. uh, Not just the location mattered a lot, but also the kind of food, drinks, entertainment. At the same time, at the end of the session they offered us some goodies. But in order for you to get that goodie, you have to fill a form, and that was a close-ended question form. It also helped them to see who can be a prospective buyer of that service down the line. So it was quite an effective way of getting a market survey done. And again, it was targeted. It was invitation only. Only people for industry who are into technology and IT were invited out there. Not it was not open for everyone. So the sample size was very well defined. The questions were very well defined. The information technique was very well defined. So if you want to get something, you have to do something kind of stuff. And again, the goodies were very nice. It was some pen drive, and at the same time some power bank with their branding and stuff like that. So all those things matter a lot. when you're actually doing this kind of surveys or survey focus groups. So again, it also depends from what exactly you're saying or what exactly you're trying to get out of it. A contact center might not be able to do it, but yeah, if the product and service are really effective, they would like to actually go for this kind of survey or promotion offers. Moving on to the next slide. Gathering VOC requires consideration of many factors such as product or service types, customer segments, manufacturing methods, or facilities. That is what one of the examples I just gave. All the information will influence the sampling strategy, definitely. Consider which factors are important and build a sample size around a plan around them. Also consider response rates and adjust the initial sample strategy to ensure adequate input is received. Once a sampling plan is in place, collect data via direct and indirect methods discussed earlier. After gathering VOC, it will be necessary to translate it into something meaningful, CTQs. CTQ is nothing but critical to quality. So in my company where I work, it's an IT company, I manage a team of technical engineers who are more into implementation. I look from overall quality and project implementation perspective. So here we have, from if to have to gauge engineer's performance or the entire project performance, we have NPS questionnaires, and we have another set of questions that actually tells us how the customer felt during the entire transition or the project that happened. And we use two methodologies. We have a rating system from 1 to 10, that's NPS, and at the same time we have uh, questions segregated. So how exactly you felt, how what was the comfort level when the engineer was actually helping you out to implement that solution. So was it bad, very bad, bad, good, very good, excellent? So that way we are able to categorize it and get a better output. If I put a rating system from 1 to 10, but if I don't further subcategorize it, like in NPS, you have detractors, neutrals, and promoters. So a detractor can stand anything between 1 to 6, 7 and 8 can be a neutral, and 9 and 10 can be a promoter or would be a promoter. But the calculation of NPS is different. NPS helps you to gauge a relationship of your customer with the company, but it will not give you further insights into it until unless you add more questions to it. But nowadays people tend not to answer too many questions because of the time constraint. So you have to be very you have to plan your sampling, you have to plan your questionnaire in such a way that the person in front of you should be giving you a survey every time when he receives it, or the frequency has to be very well defined. Okay, so guys, clear so far? So when I say segregating the measurement system also helps. So if I have a rating like very bad, bad, good, very good, and excellent, it actually gives me a very good information when I aggregate the data and try to understand where exactly my engineers are standing. I can further bifurcate it depending on the kind of solution that has been implemented or service that has been provided. I can actually even further drill down which group of engineers have done what kind of implementation, or what is the product type, or is it an individual engineer who is doing surprisingly well. Those are the critical to quality aspects I can derive from the survey answers. So if an engineer, for example, is doing an excellent work, an associate is doing an excellent work, and he is getting good surveys one after the other, he can be, his work or his understanding about the process can be revisited and try to understand what other people are not doing that this person is doing, or he or she is doing, wherein we can improve the process overall. So all those things matter a lot. So is it the communication aspect, is it the process knowledge, is it the product knowledge, is it the link between different departments, claims, warranties, where you have dependencies of other departments. So all those things will, this gives a very beautiful insight, very, very beautiful insight. Any questions so far, guys? Any questions in gathering VOC till now?
No,
Clear?
all good.
All good? Dean, clear?
Extremely clear.
Okay, right. Let's move on. Okay. So Gathering VOC. VOC remains the priority investment. 77% of the companies with the VOC program have either increased or maintained their financial investment in the past year. 2. But many companies don't generate real ROI. Less than 33% of the companies map customer feedback to financial performances. Not everyone are able to do it. True culture change is rare. Just 8% of companies can confidently say that they have harnessed the voice of customer to change their culture. Yeah, that's a bitter truth, but that's the truth. Only 8% companies. Critical to quality. CTQ stands for critical to quality. CTQs are translated from VOC or voice of customers feedback. Um, VOC of customer, voice of customer feedback. VOC is often vague, emotional, or simply a generalization about a product or service until and unless you ask specific questions. Definitely. CTQs are quantifiable, measurable, and meaningful translation of VOC. Organizing VOC helps you to identify CTQs. One effective way to organize VOC is to group or bucket it using an affinity diagram. Affinity diagrams are ideal for large amounts of soft data resulting from brainstorming sessions or surveys. Let's see what exactly it is. Affinity diagram, building a CTQ tree. Steps for conducting an affinity diagram exercise. Step 1. Clearly define the question or focus of the exercise. Why are associates late for work? So this is an example they have given. Step 2. Record all participant response on note card or sticky notes. This is the sloppy part. Now this is just an example, but it works wonders. Lay out all note cards or post it the sticky notes onto a wall. Look for and identify common themes. Begin moving the note cards or sticky notes into the themes until all responses are allocated. The last step is to reevaluate and make adjustments. Let's see. Define the question or focus. Record responses on note card. Display all note cards on sticky notes or wall repository. Why are associates late to work? Okay, slept late. Stop light was out. Oh, that's a great example. Long line at Starbucks. Another amazing example. Forgot to set alarm. Couldn't find a parking place. Common problem across. Traffic. Dog through. Okay. Traffic accident. Kids were sick. Long wait for the elevator. Power went out. Had to take kids to school. Doctor appointment. Now let's reevaluate and let's try to group them. Why are associated late to work? Delays at home. Delays on commute. Kids, pets related delay. Delays in the building. Now this looks more segregated and looks more sensible. Now I can see how to take actions. So can I take actions? Delays at home. Can I take actions on the associates delays at home?
You definitely can.
Okay. So it is more from associate perspective, right? It's not something as a manager I can control if you slept late or the power went out or the dog threw up or something of that sort. Okay, let me just
Gotcha.
yeah. Okay, forgot to set alarm. Delays in commute. Can I fix traffic accidents or can I stop light which was out or traffic? I can't. Kids
No,
pets related
those are
delay.
external.
Yeah. You have one, I suppose. Yeah, Dean,
You're
you have a
correct.
dog at your
You're
place.
correct. You're correct.
Okay, I sure you don't give the reason that the dog threw up and you went late to office.
No, that would not be acceptable at all.
Just kidding. Okay, so delays in building, long line at Starbucks. Can I do something about it? So
Go
the
early.
associate, yep, I can go early. Okay, fine. Again, this more from an individual perspective. Or can I install a coffee machine in my office premise? Make sure that people don't go to Starbucks, they come to office directly for a free coffee.
Yep.
Yep, helps. Okay, couldn't find a parking space. Can I speak to the building management, or if I own the building, then I allocate the spaces where people can park their vehicles? Quite possible. Long wait for elevator. Okay, now this can be a challenge. Again, depends on the premise. If you own the building, is a different ball game. But if you are a part, you just own a floor or a section of the space in the entire building, this can be a challenge. So yeah, it can be again worked along with the management, building management, or so one of the offices where I used to work, they we had 8 lifts. It was just a 10-floor building. But just because we had one entire floor of that building, we had a dedicated lift for our office only. uh, and there were few offices where they made sure that a particular lift used to go only on the particular floor, so the lift is not congested, and people don't occupy any another lift the way they want, and take time. So yep, these are the things that we can do. So by segregating this, we know on what things we can work and what things we can't, internal and external factors. And that's how we can actually reduce or fix those challenges. Yeah, for other delays, as per these examples, possibly you might have to coach and train people at the individual level. But when it comes to delays in building or infrastructure, we can definitely do something about it from a company perspective. So that's how a CTQ tree is made, and that's how it is segregated to make a uh, so this is all voice of customers or voice of associates. Now I have identified a CTQ, a critical to quality, what is impacting based on the segregations that I have done. But at the same time, this segregation helps me to understand what I can do that can have a direct impact or that can have a direct fix to the problems. So delays in building, I can fix 50% or 80% of them. So that will easily reduce, if not 100%, at least 20% of the challenges people who are coming in late to office. Rest, we have to find out a way of actually fixing it. I don't know, I can't move the school to office, or I can't have a doctor in my office. That's a different part. But yeah, the things that we can do. So that's the beauty of affinity diagram, and that's how it is done. So Terry, Dean, clear how to make an affinity diagram and how to derive CTQ tree out of it? Terry, Dean,
Yes.
clear?
Clear. Clear.
Any doubts?
It's
Any question?
clear.
No doubts whatsoever. I think this pretty much is something that I typically would look into. It's more so what we do as business insights to say. It would be
Yeah.
less of somebody running in late, more so like you would have touched on before. A lot of
Mhm,
companies do not tie it back to a financial piece. What we
mhm.
typically want to do is to look at the insights that are coming in from the customer so that we can quantify to see, you know what?
Uh,
If one
yep,
of my client was doing this correctly, then how it would impact their financials at the end of the year, or what
definitely.
product or processes the customers are looking into from an external standpoint that we don't necessarily have control over, but it can be impactful. So totally
Definitely.
understood.
Yep, great. So, and the beauty about the entire Six Sigma framework is that it definitely doesn't mean that though we have 5 phases, we have to go through all the 5 phases. Even something like an affinity diagram or a Pareto chart can make wonders or do wonders for you. I actually worked on one of the black belt. I was not leading it, but I was working for it. It was before my black belt. We had a product. I was working for a telecommunication company, as I said some time back. I was working for Optus, where so every there is a term called as, and Dean, you would be more familiar with it. There's a term called as CTS, cost to serve. So every product a customer uses, and I have some service agreement in terms of having a contact center or warranty or claims. I end up spending X amount per customer per month. But if the customer, if that amount goes beyond that particular call, say for example, for Optus, when we used to work, the maximum we were spending we were expecting a prepaid customer should be spending, or we should be spending on a prepaid customer, a prepaid mobile customer was $1 in a month, not more than that. So we were trying to identify how to reduce the call volumes for all these prepaid customers who are not high value but high volume generators. So we try to identify loopholes or process gaps. We did a similar kind of CTQ tree that time around, and we identified a particular product type that was actually giving us a lot of calls. So the product was called $1 a day or $2 a day. That's the name of the product. So it was a very simple, it's nothing but a prepaid phone. But the beauty or the positive side of that service was, as soon as you make a first call or first text messages or any browsing activity you do for the day, $2 will be deducted from your credit balance that is loaded. And the rest entire day, you can make as many as local calls, as many of SMS, as many as the video calls. It's free, it's virtually free for you. But again, so people who are using prepaid phones, they don't want to get binded by a contract like a contract phone users do. They end up paying starting anything between $39 or $40, or even more than that per month. So these people were not revenue generators, they were volume generators, and the cost to serve amount that we used to spend on them was very less. But this particular group of customers used to call us a lot of time. And when we try to dig deep into it, we identified that there were value added services, or VAS, that we call in prepaid mobile across globe, where mobile operators give them different kind of value added services that they can use. So one of the value added services was called IOU, wherein if your balance is low, is less than $2 in a day, is less than $1.49 in a day, and you want to make some emergency call and you want extra money, you just send a SMS to that number that was given, and Optus used to provide a $2 credit for free. And next time whenever you are recharging, $2 will be deducted straight away from that balance. Now the joke was, the way the product was designed was not very well done. So for example, if my balance is not below $1.49, I used to call the contact center. I used to say, hey buddy, I'm short of credit. I have just $1.80 in my account. I cannot make a call obviously because there are no $2. That's the plan. Can you please deduct 31 cents from my account so that I can get that credit? So from a customer service perspective, we used to do it. Done. The balance was deducted. The guy disconnects. He sends the message, gets $2, and calls back again. Can you please add the 31 cents you just deducted from my account? So for no reason, just because I have a value-added service with a foolish terms and condition that a dollar balance has to be below $1.49, the people who are not generating revenue for me are calling twice in a matter of 5 minutes, twice or even 3 times or 4 times, 5 times in a month. So you can imagine so many customers on that plan calling you every now and then just for the silly thing. We did just a CTQ. We were lucky to have the numbers because the call categorization was there. Just by removing that $1.49, we recommended Optus that they should go ahead and remove that barrier, because that is actually unusual, increasing the call volumes at the contact center, and again it's causing it's not improving the revenues. Optus saved close to $300,000 per annum just by doing that. Imagine, a very small thing. It was just a CTQ tree built, and we had some further analysis. So these tools, they might look simple, but they can have a very great impact. And I'm telling you, we didn't use no regression analysis, no hypothesis testing, because we had the data. The only thing that we did is we validated the data because it was available for us. So any tool that you will be learning throughout this can be used as a standalone tool for a project itself. So that's the beauty of it. So that was a small story just to give you an insight how it works. All right. Can we move on to the next one? Terry, Dean, clear?
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Example of generic CTQ tree transposed from a whiteboard to a software package. So this is, they're just given an example. And this can be done in software packages like Minitab, and it can also be done. There is a proprietary IBM software called as SPSS. Full form is statistical package in social science. Again, I have the copy of it, but it's quite old. I don't know whether it will work or not. But that is more powerful than Minitab. It can do a lot of data processing as well. It is used for various things, usually into social science related statistics. But yeah, it's fun. The graphical outputs are amazing. So this is how it would look in a graphical software package. We'll go through Kano analysis. So another VOC categorization that we use. Just a minute, guys. Is called Kano. So another VOC categorization technique is the Kano. The Kano model was developed by a Japanese guy, Noriaki Kano, in 1980s. The Kano model is graphic tool that further categorize VOC and CTQ into three distinct groups. So must-haves, performance attributes, and delighters. Uh, So the similar way, when we constructed the affinity diagram and made a CTQ tree out of it, what we did is we got all the responses, but then we categorize it based on the CTQ that we had. We had common identifiers. The same thing we have here, but only thing is those things are fixed. So those categories are fixed. Something called as a must-have, something called as a performance attribute, something called as a delighter. So the Kano helps to identify CTQs that add incremental values versus those that are simply requirements, and having more is not necessarily better. So let's see what exactly it is. Okay, so this is a diagram that he has done. So basic needs did it well, but when it comes to performance needs and excitement needs, it goes up. So the example that we just saw was an example of a problem, but Kano will really help if you are actually doing a product design or product. So, or if you want to understand a customer's need, or you're going to create a new product, or you're trying to see the existing product, you're trying to compare your existing product with what is there in the market. So it will be more suitable for a product customer need perspective. So whatever inferences you derive, or whatever notes, or whatever insights you get from VOC, has to be categorized into these three distinct categories: must-haves, performance attributes, and delighters. That's what it is all about. So after determining all CTQs, confirm them with the customer. Confirm them with the customer. Confirming can be accomplished by conducting survey through one or more of the following methods: group sessions, one-on-one meetings, phone interviews, electronic means, can chat, email, social media, or physical email. Consider you confirming audience and try to avoid factors that may influence or bias responses, such as inconvenience or overly burdensome time commitments. Okay. Lastly, CTQs must be transformed into specifics that can be built upon in a process. So a requirement really translates CTQ to a meaningful and measurable requirement for production processes and products. So now that we did a affinity diagram, we did a CTQ validation through it, now we have to build a requirement tree to translate the CTQs. Now, if I have to take the affinity diagram that we just saw some time ago, where we said building management, and I take the example of long lines in Starbucks. So we did brainstorming supposedly, and we said, okay, let's put a coffee machine in place. Now I have to gather the requirement tree for it. I have to translate that CTQ into requirement tree. So let's see how it is done. So this is an example they have given on-time delivery. So in on-time delivery, what happens? Order fulfillment time, shipment processing turn time, quality control time. Then it's further divided into inventory pickup should be under 2 hours, order status should be under 1 hour, order production should be under 4 hours. So it is further divided into actionable items. So Dean, based on what we just saw in a couple of sites earlier in terms of CTQ tree that we made, and one of the examples we said, people are getting late to office because they have to stand in Starbucks because it's heavily crowded or there is a long queue. What do you think if we say setting up a machine, a coffee machine inside office would help? How do you put it as a requirement in this tree format? Just a wild guess. I'm not expecting a right answer. I just want to see how well you have understood this requirement tree.
Let me see. So I think more so what we're looking at first and foremost would have been the setup of the machine. The value would have been, I think, let me look how I can position it. I think what we're looking at would have been one, ensuring that the type of coffee that will be offered is
Mm-hmm.
what is typically offered at Starbucks or
Okay, good.
similar quality, because again, you'd still see them going to Starbucks if the quality of the coffee is not the same. I think
Absolutely right.
you'd need to look at a turnaround time to say when will this coffee machine be implemented, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can know soon you can start seeing some improvements in terms of persons being earlier, persons being late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And three, you'd be looking at more so at the output. Since the implementation of the coffee machine, have we been seeing the late percentage increasing or decreasing? So is it a
Absolutely
success
right.
or
Yeah.
not?
Yep. Okay, great. You are on track. Absolutely on track. So just to add more to what you have said, so if I say on-time delivery, instead of that, I put installation of coffee machine. The first thing is the quality and taste. Is it same as Starbucks? Number one. Number two would be how long will it take for the installation? Definitely. Number three would be how much time it would take for someone to get coffee from that machine, isn't
So
it?
correct. Because again, you don't want to create a coffee machine
Yeah,
there with the same
right,
long lines.
right, right. Otherwise,
Correct.
you would see a similar kind of line in your office after Starbucks.
Precisely. Even though of
So
an
all those
office Starbucks.
that too for free. So yes, so all these aspects have to be further divided. You have to further drill down into it. So each option. So here they have given an example of two further trees. I would make it, if I have three options or three items here, each item would have a tree. So first one is say the taste and quality as per Starbucks. So what is the taste and quality as per Starbucks? So are they using a particular coffee powder, or is it like a machine that, so in office we have a so like Starbucks, we have a similar brand called as Cafe Coffee Day. It's a local Indian brand in India only. Uh, they have a similar kind of Starbucks kind of setups. Though Starbucks is also there in India, but Cafe Coffee Day has a wider reach. So what they did, apart from having these small cafes where they serve coffee and small snacks to eat and stuff, they also sell coffee machines, the same machines which they actually use in their cafes. So what people have started to do is they have started to install those kind of machines in the office, so that people don't crowd themselves out of a Cafe Coffee Day or Starbucks, sipping on a coffee and enjoying music out there. So those kind of things, so you have to further drill down and you have to look how. So obviously if I'm standing in a Starbucks line taking 10 to 20 minutes for me to get a coffee, if I have a machine installed in the cafeteria, how much time it will take for someone to take a cappuccino from the machine once the glass is put into? So how much time it would take? So even if like there are 5 or 6 people standing in queue, will it take 10 minutes for the last person to actually get his coffee, or will it be done within 5 minutes? So that will also matter a lot. And again, the whole idea is the presence, a physical presence of the person is equally important as his mental presence. So if the physical presence is there, you would have staff who will not be in a hurry in terms of when they are standing in the coffee machine or the vending machine that is there in office as compared to what they have to do in a Starbucks. So that will also cause an impact. So the whole idea of me giving the example or trying to supersede or supersede this example in here is how you go ahead and further create a requirements tree. Clear with it?
Pretty clear.
Okay, Terry, are you
Yeah,
clear?
yeah, clear.
Terry, the next
It's clear.
answer, whatever comes next, you are going to answer it now. No more Dean. Okay, let's move on. Okay,
Okay.
quality function deployment. Good. QFD, quality function deployment. Now we'll just go through. So this is good to know information. If you're doing a QFD from a black belt or a master black belt perspective, you have a complete book around it. If you're really keen to see how a QFD is actually done and how a house of quality is actually done in real life scenario. So we'll just touch bases. We'll go through it from an examination perspective and what kind of possible questions you might get around it. So developed by Shigeru Mizuno in 1910-1989 and Yoji Akao 1928 in Japan, quality function deployment aims to design products that assure customer satisfaction and value the first time and every time. So the QFD framework can be used for translating actual customer statements and needs, that is the voice of customer, into action and designed to build and deliver a quality product. So quality function deployment is a construction methodology and quantification tool used to identify and measure customers' requirements and transform them into meaningful and measurable parameters. QFD helps to prioritize actions to advance process or product to meet customers' anticipation. QFD is an excellent tool for contact between cross-functional groups. The purpose of QFD is market analysis to establish needs and expectation, examination of competitors' abilities, identification of key factors for success, translation of those key factors into product and process characteristics. Phases of QFD, 4 phases of QFD. Phase 1, product planning, including the house of quality. Requirement engineering life cycle. Phase 2, product design, design life cycle. Phase 3, process planning, implementation life cycle. And phase 4 is process control, testing life cycle. So what's phase 1? It's product planning, including the house of quality, requirement engineering life cycle. Okay, is the same thing in just graphical format. Okay. So how to build a house of quality? Determine customer requirements. What's from VOC and CTQ? We have seen how to get VOC and we have seen how to convert that VOC into a CTQ. Technical specifications, design requirement are the house, how to do it. Develop a relationship metric between what and how, what the customer wants and how it would be done. There has to be a relationship matrix into it. Prioritize customer requirements. Conduct competitive assessment. When we say conduct competitive assessments, is more what to know what your competition is doing in terms of a product that you're trying to create which already exists in the market. Develop the interrelationship matrix between the house, how you are doing it and how the competition is doing it. Prioritize the design requirements. Okay, now let's see how the house of quality looks. So these are your customer requirements. So what's derived from the VOCs converted into a CTQs. How much? So they want what they want and how much do they want. Technical specification. How should I do it? Or how should I meet the customer expectation? The relationship between matrix between what and how. How much? Degree of technical difficulty, overall importance rating, technical competitive evaluation and target goals. Whys? Correlation metric between hows and how. So this how and this how. Correlation matrix in that. Customer market evaluation, what's versus why. I know it's too much of why, what, how, and why. But as I said, this is just from the green belt perspective. If you really want, I'll be showing it to you how it is done based on the slides which are there. But if you're really keen to know how to do this, I'll give you a book, but you have to go through it to understand how to do it. And I even have a video that's almost an hour long. And if you have that patience to go through it, you will come to know how it is done in real life situation. Okay, customer importance rating. Now let's see, identify the importance of customer requirement. These are the what's and are typically determined through the VOCs and CTQs. Use the results from your requirement tree diagram as inputs for the customer's requirement in your HOQ, that is house of quality. So this is what we just saw. Customer requirements are this. What's on time? Customer requirements are on time delivery, for example, increase product quality, alternative solutions, reduce turnaround time, optimize resource, reduce cost of poor quality. These are my customer requirements. High productivity. Potential choice for product features, voice of designer or engineer. Each what item must be refined to house. Each what item must be refined to the how. Technical specifications. Design and development. Sorry guys, just a quick minute. Research and development. So all those technical specifications on how to deliver the what of the customers is what has to be captured in here. This is center portion of the house. Each cell represent how each technical specification relate to each customer requirement. So let's see how it is done. So this is how it would look once it is mentioned. So obviously you have to identify the what and the how. What is nothing but the customer requirement that you have derived from VOC and converted into a CTQ, critical to quality, that can be measured. And technical specification is something that you have to decide what would be required for the how, the what to be delivered to. And again, the relationship, as I said, the relationship matrix has to be defined. So this symbol dedicate a strong relationship, this symbol represent a medium, and this symbol represent a weak relationship. And based on that, it is brainstorming is done and the ratings are given. So on-time delivery for design and development has a strong relationship. For supply and distribution is a medium. For asset management is a weak relationship, and so on and so forth. So this is just one part of the house of quality that you are looking at now. Now let's move on to the next one. This is the right portion of the house. Each cell represents customer requirement based on the relative importance to the customer and perception of the competitive performance. Now, based on these ratings that we just saw, a final number will arrive. So this one is 9, say this one is 5, and this one is 1. So based on that, the ratings would be derived. Customer preference. This is the right extreme right portion of the house, comparison of the organization product to competitor's product. Now you are trying to compare what is the customer preference, what your company can offer, what the other two competitors are offering, and where they stand in terms of the ratings for all this customer wants. So you come to know, so if you see alternative solutions, you are very poor at it. Turnaround time, you are okay. Resource optimization, competitor one is better than you. Reduce COPQ, competitor one is better than you, and so on and so forth. So you, in this one picture, you come to know, so there's still, the picture is yet to be completed. It is not completely done. In this one picture, you will come to know where do you stand in terms of the customer wants, how capable you are in terms of delivering it, and how well you are faring in terms of the competition in the market. That's the beauty of house of quality. Moving on, this is the top portion of the house. It identifies the way how items either support positive or conflict negative with one another. The correlation matrix. Okay. So if you see, it goes in a matrix like this, triangle. And again, the rating system are there. So the symbols represent a rating. You see this? Okay. So again, this comes from brainstorming from almost all the departments. So prioritize design requirement, overall function ratings, functions of relationship ratings, and customer prioritization ratings. Technical difficulty assessment, similar to customer market competitive evaluations, but conducted by the technical team. So the how much part, the technical competitiveness targets goal, this is all done internally. The technical benchmarking, there are numbers which are given. So these numbers which have been derived is based on this chart and this chart. So it's not easy to do. It cannot be done by one single person. It's a huge, big activity that requires multiple teams to be present, and it requires a lot of data in terms of where you are standing, where your company is standing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so guys, this is again, as I said, from Greenbelt perspective, good to know information. You will not have too many questions in terms of how it is done, but it will have questions who actually derived this and what year. Those are the questions that you will get on this one. Clear so far? I know this was a bit overhyped and too much difficult to digest. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think like you would have made mention, you'd potentially be sharing a video with us, likewise a book. So I think if we need further clarity, then we should be good there, right?
Yeah,
Good stuff.
definitely. All right. Okay, so guys, this I okay. Let me just move on. Okay, how much goal? Okay. So guys, what we'll do is we'll stop here today. I don't want to go to the next chapter now, otherwise it will be too much. So this is the final house of quality the way it is. And these are the different parts of it. Pros and cons have been given. So so we have another 3 minutes. Let's quickly wrap it up. Focus the design of product or process on satisfying customer needs and wants. Improves the contact channel between customer, advertising, research and improvement, quality and production departments, which sustain better decision making. Reduce the new product development project period and cost. Relationship matrix. Okay, now relationship matrix can be too obscure with many process inputs and or many customer constraints. It can be very complicated and difficult to implement without experience. Definitely, if throughout the process new ideas, specifications or requirements are not discovered, you run the risk of losing team members' trust in the process. So these are the pros and cons of quality function deployment. QFD summary. When used properly, the quality function deployment is an extremely valuable approach to product process design. These are many benefits of QFD that can only be realized when each step of the process is completed thoroughly. Logical way of obtaining information and presenting it. Smallest product development cycle. Considerably condensed startup cost. Fewer engineering alterations. Reduced chance of supervision during design process. Collaborating event environment. Preserving everything in characters. That's it. So I'll not move to cost of poor quality. We'll try to finish the define phase in the next session, and we'll start with the measure phase with the tools in terms of brainstorming. We will start with fishbone diagram, cause and effect matrix, cause and effect analysis, and if possible, we'll also touch with failure mode and effect analysis. All right, guys. So sorry, the last 15-20 minutes was a bit harrowing. I understand, but this is part of the curriculum from Greenbelt, so I have to take you through it. And I wish that you had a good session and you were able to, and you have asked all the possible questions that you have doubts with. Anything that we covered today that is not clear? Dean, Terry,
Nothing,
anything?
nothing from mine. I think you were pretty spot on, as I would have said before. So no questions from mine. I think my only question would have been less around the content, more so around. You made mention the delivery of the presentation. Once we're able to get that, and I think one of our members would have fallen off, he's equally going to be able to get that so that we all can revisit. And I think if we have
Yeah,
any questions, we can come to the next session prepared to post it.
definitely. So I will be dropping you an email so that if you have any questions and queries, you can drop off an email anytime. And I'll be sending
Okay.
you, I have your email addresses. I will be sending you the Google Drive link and Drive link, and you can download all the study material. Apart from study material, there are a lot of stuff I'll show you next week that you have access to. I would recommend you to download everything and keep it so that I can save some Google Drive space.
No problem. Sure.
Okay. All right, great. So nice meeting you guys. I'll catch you up with next week on coming Saturday.
Pleasure
All
was
right.
ours.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Dean. Have a
Have a
great day.
great one.
Yep. Good one. Bye, guys.
Bye.